Chapter 963. Yumu's successful breakthrough was a grand occasion for the entire cultivation world. Once there was a return to void stage mighty figure, there would be a second one. Going from something to something was much easier than going from nothing to something. The cultivator group was also in a state of jubilation, with 999 plus messages every minute. And Lin silently tipped another 1,000 spirit stones as a congratulatory gift for Taoist master Yumu's breakthrough to the return to void stage. This matter instantly caused an uproar among the cultivators. All of them were shocked by Lin's generosity. The title of tycoon and began to take root in people's hearts. He didn't continue talking to the group and turned his gaze to the prairie. Under the tranquil, starry sky, the flow of essence gradually accelerated. The essence that came from all directions caused the density of the essence in this region to become extremely dense. This world is finally going to change. Battle Goddess by Qiong's sword buzzed, and it was as if she were a heavenly sword that had yet to be unsheathed. Her aura was restrained, yet it still struck fear into the hearts of onlookers. The scope of the abnormal movement of vital energy was getting larger and larger, and it had already exceeded the range that Lin could sense with his divine sense. He knew that the scope of this abnormal movement was likely to have affected the entire Earth. This was the upgrade of the world level. 2 hours later, the sound of glass shattering rang out in the void, and Lin looked towards the source of the sound and saw a dark yellow light penetrating through the cracks in the void. It was a power that did not belong to this world. White Spirit Snake's eyes narrowed slightly as a nostalgic expression appeared on her face. This is the divine light of my tribe. This place really is connected to the ancient land of my tribe in the ancient Tai Chu realm. Battle Goddess by Qiong's heart throbbed, and she forcefully suppressed her cultivation base. The great Tao of heaven and earth began to roar, and the circular-colored area continued to expand on the surface. In the end, it turned into a beam of light of various colors that soared into the sky. It exploded in the sky like fireworks, releasing streams of light that covered the sky like spreading branches and leaves. Then, it fell in all directions on Earth. First, the atmosphere surged and the density of vitality changed. Following that, the mountains, rivers, and the polar ocean also began to undergo drastic changes. Hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and all kinds of natural disasters descended. Vital energy transformed into rain. Divine light bestowed blessings. Rare treasures appeared, and all sorts of heavenly phenomena began to appear. This was a moment of fortune and disaster. And Lin couldn't care less about that, because he felt an extremely terrifying power from the core of the formation. That power made him instinctively feel fear. The fissure grew larger and larger, from 10 feet in size. It became a giant fissure that was hundreds of feet long and several feet wide. It was like a huge scar in the night sky. Dark yellow light carrying a decaying aura flowed out from within, the energy becoming more and more terrifying. Little White, are you sure this is the ancient land of the Snake Spirit clan? That aura should be your ancestor's friend, right? And Lin swallowed his saliva and said nervously. White Spirit Snake's expression was quite dark as well. Even though this place is connected to the ancient land of my tribe, I can't guarantee that nothing will come out of it. To be on the safe side, don't let it come out. She took out a sparkling golden crystal and installed it on a disc-type artifact. And Lin's expression faltered slightly. This crystal was none other than the Golden Realm Essence crystals he had seen in the ancient Tai Chu realm. A single Golden Realm Essence crystal was worth 1,000,000 spirit stones. A disappointed expression appeared on White Spirit Snake's face as she looked at the expanding fissure. If there's a chance, I really do want to go to the ancient land. But for now, our top priority is to repair the fissure. As she spoke, she made a gesture with both hands, and the disc emitted a golden brilliance. With a whoosh, it flew towards the gap in the crack. The disc flew toward the fissure, and a massive spell formation activated, drawing upon the power of heaven and earth to compress the fissure causing it to contract. So golden realm essence crystals can be used like this? And Lin was astonished. He had thought that golden realm essence crystals could only be used to eat and construct a small world. Who would have thought that they could also be used to activate treasures and draw upon the power of heaven and earth? The repair process was very smooth. The terrifying fissure was compressed by the disk's power, and it continued to contract until it was only 10 feet in length. It looks like repairing the formation is quite easy, and Lin commented. He had initially thought that he would have to fight, or that he would encounter some kind of predicament, and that he would have to turn the tide. Who would have thought that he would have to experience the entire process as a spectator? Repairing the fissure of a world is more difficult the closer it is to the final moment, Battle Goddess by Cheong retorted with furrowed brows. Just as they were speaking, White Spirit Snake's body began to tremble violently. What's wrong? And Lin was shocked to see this. White Spirit Snake gritted her teeth and exerted all of her strength to control the disc in the fissure. Even her true body was beginning to reveal itself, and her legs transformed into a long, pristine snake tail. The disc in the fissure trembled violently, as if it was being restrained by some kind of power. Crack! The dark yellow fissure suddenly began to slowly expand once again. This time, everyone's expression became solemn. A pair of pitch-black hands suddenly appeared at the edge of the fissure, and they began to tear at it relentlessly. What a wonderful place! What? Do you not welcome me? A hoarse voice drifted over like an eerie gust of wind. Its head peeked out from the fissure. It had curly red hair, and its skin was covered in black snake scales. Its emerald eyes flickered dangerously as it flicked its forked tongue. The reply it received was an extremely powerful mountain-quaking fist. Boom! The snake monster's head was struck, and its hands almost lost their grip on the fissure. Who goes there? The snake monster roared angrily. You daddy! And Lin roared, and he unleashed a series of mountain-quaking fists toward the snake monster's head. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying energy constantly surged in the void. The snake monster shrieked, and a red sound wave crashed into Lin's chest like a sledgehammer, sending Lin flying back over a kilometer. And Lin was shocked. This snake monster was very powerful. It was at least at the return to void intermediate stage or even higher. Most of the snake monster's power was used to defend against the power of the circular disc, and it didn't have much power left to deal with Lin. Even so, its roar still forced him back. Little ones, the gate to a new world has been opened for you. Hurry up and charge. The snake monster roared angrily, and the muscles on its arms bulged as it abruptly tugged at the fissure with its hands. The fissure instantly expanded several times in size. A swarm of snake monsters rushed out of the crack, hissing excitedly. Some of the snake monsters had wings on their backs, some rode on clouds, and some landed on the ground. They were like a series of black shadows, and their numbers were staggering. Ms. White Spirit Snake, what's with these snake monsters? Xianyuan Cheng was shocked. White Spirit Snake's features paled, and she gritted her teeth. I don't know. They have the aura of our snake spirit clan, but they're extremely violent and depraved. They might be snake monsters that mutated from the collapse of this continent, which means they're enemies. Xianyuan Cheng drew his longsword. White Spirit Snake. That's right. Chapter 964. Ha! There are cultivators in our way. Kill them all. There are also snake spirit tribe, living beings. I'm so excited. Hiss. Humans, delicious humans. Hiss, you guys go eat the humans and snake spirit tribe living beings. I'll eat dog meat, so don't fight with me. Dabai shuddered upon hearing this. Countless snake monsters surged out from the crack like a swarm of locusts, and they bared their blood-stained fangs, giving onlookers goosebumps. White Spirit Snake was in a deadlock with the powerful, red-haired snake monster, and she was at a slight disadvantage as the crack was slowly widening. Countless snake monsters pounced toward White Spirit Snake excitedly. Boom! Purple flames surged and engulfed an area with a radius of several hundred meters, melting all of the oncoming snake monsters. Battle God Ziyang controlled the purple flames to protect White Spirit Snake. Battle God Ziyang, protect White Spirit Snake. Battle Goddess by Qiong unsheathed her longsword, and it transformed into an astonishing sword rainbow as it pierced through the air toward the red-haired snake monster. Bai Qiong knew that the red-haired snake monster was the key. As long as she could beat it back into the ancient Taichu realm, this matter would be resolved. Hiss hiss. You don't have the right to stop me. Come out, snake spirit holy trinity. The red-haired snake monster roared, and three figures suddenly leaped out from the crack. One of the rock pythons charged toward Bai Qiong, and a suit of earthy armor enveloped its body as it collided with the terrifying sword projection. A mountain-toppling power crashed in a battle goddess by Qiong's sword projection, and she was knocked flying along with it. Ha ha! A powerful being from the snake spirit tribe? You're nothing special. A ferocious expression appeared on the rock python's face as its body continued to expand. In the end, it grew to over 10,000 feet in length, and its aura soared once again. However, Bai Qiong's gaze wasn't focused on the rock python. Instead, she turned toward White Spirit Snake and yelled, "Master White, be careful." White Spirit Snake was the first target of two of the three snake spirit holy sages. They weren't idiots. Bai Qiong could figure out that the red-haired snake monster was an important figure, and they could also figure out White Spirit Snake's status in this group. As long as they killed White Spirit Snake, no one would be able to close this passageway. What a beautiful woman. I'm taking her. One of the six-winged snakes, which was riding atop a red cloud, stared at White Spirit Snake with a scorching gaze as it stuck out its flexible tongue. Mine. She's mine. The other nine-headed snake refused to back down and pounced toward the woman in the white dress excitedly. The flames unleashed by Battle God Ziyang were nothing more than a tickle to them. Battle God Ziyang's legs gave out from fear. How was he supposed to fight when he was being targeted by two Heaven Creation Stage monsters? These were two monsters that were comparable to return to Void Stage mighty figures. Even Battle Goddess by Qiong couldn't block them. So how was he supposed to block them? He couldn't stop them. Master White, don't worry about this fisher for now. Let's get out of here. Battle God Ziyang immediately grabbed White Spirit Snake and prepared to flee. White Spirit Snake didn't move. Don't worry, Senior and Lin will protect me. Just as Battle God Ziyang's legs gave out from under him, and Lin appeared in front of White Spirit Snake. The two returned to Void Stage snake monsters instantly appeared before White Spirit Snake. Just as Battle God Ziyang's legs gave out from under him, and Lin appeared before White Spirit Snake. See? I told you that Senior and Lin would come and protect me. A smug smile appeared on White Spirit Snake's delicate features. Battle God Ziyang faltered. Even if he comes, he doesn't have the ability to protect you. He knew that Lin was a soul formation final stage cultivator, but his opponent was a return to Void Stage snake monster. How could he bridge the gap between their cultivation bases? Reckless human. Piss off. Die, human. The two returned to Void Stage snake monsters attacked at the same time. At this moment, an endless stream of flames suddenly descended. The Holy Vermilion Flame and the six Divine Flames appeared at the same time, engulfing the two snake monsters in an instant. Ah! The two snake monsters screamed in anguish and fled into the distance before they could even attack. They knew that if they stayed within the range of the flames, they would definitely be burned to death. The rest of the snake monsters didn't even have a chance to come into contact with the flames before they were melted by the indescribably high temperatures. Battle God Ziyang's mouth gaped open as he stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before his eyes. So powerful. His face was already swollen from the beating, and he could only sigh in amazement. Of course, that's Senior and Lin we're talking about. White Spirit Snake stared at the white-robed figure standing proudly within the sea of flames, and she praised him as if it was a matter of course. The red-haired snake monster's expression darkened upon seeing how powerful Lin was. Begin Plan B, he yelled. The fissure was still expanding, and more snake monsters appeared. Even though over 1,000 snake monsters had already been killed, close to 10,000 snake monsters had already emerged. Vicious expressions appeared on their faces upon hearing the red-haired snake monster's words, and they pounced toward Xianyuan Cheng, Dabai, and Tina. If they couldn't deal with the strong ones, then they would capture the weak ones and use them as hostages to threaten the strong ones. Dabai knew that he couldn't hold on any longer at the sight of the snake monsters charging toward him. He unleashed his domain in the face of the frenzied group of snake monsters. A mercury-like storm of sharp blades instantly spread out for several hundred meters. All the serpent demons that charged into the range of its domain screamed miserably as they were chopped into mincemeat by the silver wind blades. Soon, over 100 serpent demons lost their lives. Howl! An inky black python charged into Dabai's domain. The silvery white blades of wind sliced into its body, but they were unable to penetrate its scales. Ha! A mere half-step soul formation stage, Cultivator dares to act so arrogantly? I'm going to eat you. The black python pounced toward Dabai with a menacing smile. Dabai glanced at the python before turning his gaze elsewhere. The black python was enraged upon seeing this. It was just about to bite Dabai to death when an excruciating pain suddenly shot through its consciousness, as if it was being torn apart. Ah! The python tumbled to the ground as it writhed in agony. The silver blades of wind landed on its body. Even though the physical attack was blocked, there was another type of attack that penetrated the thick armor and directly struck its consciousness. Dabai's silver wind domain was a domain that attacked both the physical and the consciousness. The black python of a true power intermediate stage struggled on the ground for a while before finally losing its life force. It still had a pained expression on its face as it died, even though there were still many small monsters pouncing toward Dabai upon seeing this. The powerful true power stage monsters were all cowering in fear. That handsome human over there seems to be easier to bully. Let's go over there. Yeah, that one looks very friendly. Let's go capture him as a hostage. Many monsters changed their minds and pounced toward Xianyuan Cheng. Xianyuan Cheng looked at the endless stream of snake monsters pouncing toward him. There were more than 10 true power stage monsters among them. The pressure on him increased, and it became difficult for him. In the end, he hardened his heart and sighed softly. Forget it. I'll just unleash my domain. Chapter 965. Countless snake demons surged toward him like a tidal wave. Xianyuan Cheng held his sword in front of him, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Everything in the world seemed to slow down in his eyes. He moved his feet lightly, and the Tai Chi Pisces projection expanded on the ground, covering a radius of 1,000 meters. Myriad spirit Tai Chi, Yang explosion. Balls of golden light suddenly appeared in the air, densely distributed in all directions. What is that? The snake demon's expressions changed drastically when they saw the light balls in front of them. Don't be afraid. As long as we capture that human, all our problems will be solved. Some of the snake demons were already spitting poisonous mist toward Xianyuan Cheng. However, at this moment, the golden light balls became brighter and brighter, and they finally exploded. Boom, boom, boom. The golden energy exploded like a destructive golden flower, engulfing everything around it. The ground shook violently, and countless snake demons howled in pain. They were either burned to ashes by the energy or torn into pieces by the shockwaves. The earth-shattering explosions sounded incessantly, and Xianyuan Cheng was like a human bomber, exploding wherever he went. Golden balls kept appearing in the space within a radius of 1,000 meters, and then they exploded. Even the powerful demons of the true force realm would be severely injured or even killed if they were within the range of the golden ball's explosions. The area where Xianyuan Cheng was standing suddenly became an explosion zone of death. Run! This human cultivator's domain is so terrifying. Mommy, what kind of ability is this? It's too violent. Many snake demons began to turn and flee. There were no abilities like Xianyuan Cheng's that could directly blast you to death. This kind of sensory impact was the most intense, and it was also the easiest to damage the enemy's morale. Terrifying. It was too terrifying. This was also in Lin's first time seeing Xin Yuancheng's complete domain. He was indeed shocked, but he felt that Brother Cheng had gone down the wrong path. Want to run? It's not that easy. Xin Yuancheng saw the snake demons turn and flee, and he made a hand seal with one hand. The Tai Chi Pisces projection under his feet trembled, and the space within a radius of 1,000 meters suddenly became as sticky as glue. Myriad spirit Tai Chi bind. All of the demon race felt as if they were trapped in a space where it was difficult to move an inch. Every step forward required a great deal of energy, which made them extremely shocked. What made them feel even more despair was that one golden ball after another appeared near them, getting brighter and brighter. Boom, boom, boom. Ah! The sounds of explosions and screams were endless. In the end, there were no longer any living beings within the 1,000-meter radius of the domain. Whether it was a small demon or a big demon in the true power realm, they were all dead. The red-haired snake demon was shocked. Damn, are all the true power realm humans in this world so abnormal? It turned its gaze to the other creatures on the battlefield, and a white light instantly appeared in front of it. Immediately afterward, an exquisite and perfect little fairy appeared in front of it through a spatial leap. The red-haired snake monster's pupils constricted, and she was about to make a move. In the blink of an eye, the fairy stabbed her heart lotus ice sword toward the red-haired snake demon's heart. God technique, God trove slaughter. Tina's sword projection pierced through space, and she unleashed a top-tier divine technique that she had attained in the divine mirror world to strike the snake monster's chest. Her sword projection froze the void, and heaven and earth fell silent as the ringing of a sword resonated through the heavens. The red-haired snake monster had only just materialized a layer of defensive armor when it was pierced through by the peerlessly sharp longsword. Splat! Blood splattered through the air as the blue immortal sword pierced through the red-haired snake monster's heart. Not only that, but the boundless sword might imbued with the immortal sword instantly sent the red-haired snake monster flying backward, and it lost the strength to maintain the spatial rift. Damn it, the red-haired snake monster roared with rage. Blood monster monarch. The other three returned to void stage snake monsters turned pale with fright upon seeing this, and they immediately rushed over to provide support. Battle Goddess Bai Qiong wielded her sword as she stood in front of a snake monster mighty figure. And Lin immediately summoned Gundam 3 and Gundam 4, which held back the other two return to void stage snake monsters. Seeing this, White Spirit Snake immediately activated the power of the circular disc and drew upon the power of the spell formation to compress the spatial rift between the two worlds. Seeing that everyone had gained the upper hand, Dabai howled and pounced toward a nearby snake monster. Then, he began a majestic battle. If he didn't beat the snake monster while it was down, when was he going to do it? The spatial rift became smaller and smaller. In the end, the snake monsters of the ancient Tai Chu realm were no longer able to escape from the spatial rift. The snake monsters on the grasslands were completely powerless against Xian Yuan Cheng, Dabai, and Enlin. Not only that, but even the six-winged snake, one of the three holy snake spirits, was sliced into thousands of pieces by Yao Ji's superparticle sword. Yao Ji's power was comparable to that of a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to void intermediate stage. Thus, it was a piece of cake for her to slay the six-winged snake, which was only at the return to void initial stage. Furthermore, she was a killing machine, and she could kill her enemies in the most efficient way possible. Gasp! How dare you kill the winged snake spirit? I'm going to kill you. The rock python swatted by Qiong away with its tail before charging toward Yao Ji. Its mountainous body abruptly swung toward Yao Ji. Yao Ji remained fearless, and a pink light erupted from its body as it appeared over a kilometer away in the blink of an eye. It evaded the rock python's tail attack. What? Mechanical puppets can do spatial skipping? The rock python was dumbstruck. In the next instant, Yao Ji appeared before it again, and its pink particle sword expanded to several kilometers in length as it unleashed over 100 sword strikes in the blink of an eye. Terrifying sword intent sliced through heaven and earth, and the inky black night sky was filled with pink light that tore through space. The rock python let out a blood-curdling screech as it retreated rapidly. Numerous cracks appeared on its body, and black blood spurted out. If it wasn't for its thick skin, it would have already followed in the footsteps of the six-winged serpent and been chopped into pieces by the Demoness. Just as it was hurriedly retreating, heaven and earth abruptly dimmed, and all of its senses were blacked out. The rock python faltered momentarily before its vision returned to normal, only to discover a man with black mist emanating from his body standing before it with a smile on his face. It had only just spoken when an indescribable tearing pain shot through its neck. A bloody gash appeared on its neck before its massive head was detached from its body. The rock python's eyes widened. Never would it have thought that one of the three holy snake spirits would die so easily. Whoosh, inky black blood gushed forth like a river. And Lin stowed away the rock python's spatial artifact before accepting the six-winged snake's spatial artifact from Yaoji. Not bad, there was still one left. The nine-headed snake trembled in fear at the sight of the other three holy snake spirits being defeated, and it charged toward the crack without even turning its head back. Mommy, this world is too terrifying. It wants to go home. The nine-headed snake fled extremely quickly, and its body shrank incessantly as it charged toward the crack. As long as the crack remained, it would be able to return. The crack became smaller and smaller. The blood monster monarch was forced into retreat by Tina's sword intent as soon as it approached the crack. In the end, the blood monster monarch didn't even have the space to tear open the crack. After that, the nine-headed snake also shrank. Otherwise, it really wouldn't be able to squeeze through the crack. Soon I can go home. The nine-headed snake's eyes welled up with tears as it looked at the approaching crack. Then it saw a white finger suddenly stretch out from the crack. Chapter 966. An overwhelming sense of horror engulfed the nine-headed snake's entire body at the sight of that finger. Tina's expression shifted drastically, and she immediately slashed a scintillating blue sword projection toward the crack in the sky. A wisp of golden light suddenly floated forth from the finger, and even though it didn't exude any astonishing might, it was able to pulverize the oncoming sword projection before landing on Tina's body. Tina threw up a mouthful of blood as if she had been severely wounded, and her body plummeted from the sky. Little Nah, and Lin's expression shifted drastically, and he rushed toward Tina to catch her plummeting body. Giant and Lin, Tina looked up at Lin with a feeble expression. Run! And Lin trembled with rage, and he placed a regenerative immortal pill into Tina's mouth before handing her over to Gundam 3 for protection. He then looked up at the crack with a frosty expression. He was a very petty person. If the monster inside dared to hurt his Tina, then he was going to make it pay the price. The nine-headed snake faltered in fear at the sight of the terrifying finger. At this moment, a pair of hands grabbed onto the crack and pulled it out. The crack that had just shrunk was torn open again, and a dark yellow light descended upon this world again. White Spirit Snake's features were deathly pale. Her regenerative spell technique had been destroyed in such a brutal manner, and her blood churned as blood trickled down from the corners of her lips. A figure walked out of the crack at a steady pace. Even though the crack in the passageway between the two worlds had been torn open, there wasn't a single snake monster to be seen. He was the only one left in this world. This was a man in a red robe with a pair of demonic horns on his head. A true demon tribe, Cultivator. And Lin's expression faltered slightly. There was no hint of bloodthirst or violence in the man's crimson eyes. Instead, they were extremely warm and peaceful, and they were imbued with an indescribable sense of benevolence. I've already seen through the destruction of that heaven and earth. It seems like I can reach the Tai Chu continent from here. The man spoke in a slow voice as his eyes narrowed, and they seemed to be able to pierce through space. Oh, right, closing the door is a good habit. The man slapped his head and turned to look at the crack that looked like a scar on earth. He grabbed the edge of the crack and pulled it together. Right before everyone's astonished eyes, the crack that White Spirit Snake had to borrow the power of the Golden Realm Essence crystals and the golden disc to repair with great difficulty was forcefully sealed. The man waved the void in front of him where the crack no longer existed and nodded in satisfaction. Yes, he had repaired the crack in the passageway between the two worlds. White Spirit Snake silently recalled the disc and stared blankly at the man, unable to come to her senses. The nine-headed snake's face was ashen as he stared blankly at the closed passage. It's over. Everything is over. And Lin, who was about to violently beat up the red-clothed man, also suppressed that impulse. Closing the passage between the two worlds with one's bare hands was not something that could be done with brute force alone. The man before him was clearly no ordinary man. His comprehension of the Tao of heaven and earth had to have reached a very profound level, and he was at least at the Tao integration stage. However, he didn't seem to harbor any enmity toward Lin and the others, and his gaze didn't even linger on them. He had only attacked Tina earlier because Tina was trying to stop him from coming out. It was exactly because of this that Lin decided to back off for now. He wasn't a brainless person. Not all mighty figures were as easygoing as Celestial, the Archsea Way. If he tried to pick a fight now, then there was a very good chance that he would die. In any case, the mighty figures wouldn't pay attention to a mere soul formation stage cultivator like him anyway. Everyone else was also thinking the same thing. They had to get the mighty figures to leave first. The man from the true demon tribe drew his sword and looked up into the void. All of a sudden, his expression shifted slightly, and he turned toward Lin. A sense of foreboding welled up in Lin's heart. "You can't see me. You can't see me." A hint of excitement appeared in the man's crimson eyes. "My name is Cyril, and I am the leader of the heaven-crushing sect, as well as the #1 heavenly disciple. May I know your name?" And Lin, everyone, what the F***CK is going on? 10,000 mythological beasts stampeded over in Lin's heart. This is a F***king member of the heaven-crushing sect? And he's the leader and the #1 heavenly disciple. He recalled that Chun Chun had once invited him to join the heaven-crushing sect and made him the 3rd heavenly disciple. Now, even the #1 heavenly disciple had appeared. If possible, Lin really didn't want to answer this man's question. "Greetings, Senior. My name is Lin," and Lin said respectfully. Cyril feigned an enlightened expression before continuing. "Mr. Lin, I can see that you're extremely talented. Why don't you come with me and do something big? Something that's going to be the biggest thing in this world." "Lin, you want me to turn the entire world upside down with you?" And Lin's lips twitched slightly. "Oh, Mr. Lin, you and I are indeed fated to be able to understand the meaning behind my words. This is fate." A joyful smile appeared on Cyril's face as the admiration in his eyes deepened. "That's because I've met Shin-Shun. He said the same thing as you and offered me the position of the 3rd heavenly disciple, but I refused," and Lin said with a speechless expression. What he was implying was very clear. Shin-Shun had offered him such a good deal, but he still chose not to go. He really didn't want to join the heaven-crushing sect. Cyril faltered slightly upon hearing this, but his expression didn't dim as he looked at Lin. Instead, he became even more excited. That's because his offer wasn't high enough, right? Not only can I make you the 3rd heavenly disciple, but as long as you agree to join the heaven-crushing sect, I'll immediately give you 3 divine pills, 1 divine tool, 500 million spirit stones, and a harem of 10 extremely beautiful celestial maidens. Gasp! And Lin's eyes widened as he drew a sharp intake of breath. Dabai's mouth gaped open with a dazed expression. A harem of 10 extremely beautiful celestial maidens? What F***king tempting conditions? Everyone else also stood rooted to the spot with dumbstruck expressions. It was as if they were listening to a heavenly book. After all, these conditions were too dreamy, giving people a feeling that it was unreal. Battle God, Ziyong swallowed. He really wanted to hug Cyril's thigh and ask him if he needed more people. What about his aptitude? Mr. Lin, what do you think of this condition? A faint smile appeared on Cyril's face, and there was absolute confidence and boldness on his face. Do you think I'm that kind of person? And Lin gritted his teeth. Cyril was a little surprised. You still refuse? And Lin nodded with a resolute expression. No conditions can change my mind. A harem of 10 celestial maidens? What a joke. Do you really want to kneel on a lava durian for the rest of your life? You're even more stubborn than I thought. Cyril didn't get angry. Instead, a warm smile appeared on his face. It had to be said that his expression was very similar to Xian Yuan Cheng's. Both of them were like a spring breeze. All right then, Mr. and Lin, we'll meet again if fate allows it. Cyril wouldn't force others to do things they didn't want to do. Some things would definitely come, and forcing others to do things that weren't meant to happen would only lead to more terrifying disasters. He was focused on researching the heaven-crushing sect, so there was no need for him to cause trouble here. He took another glance at Lin before shaking his head with a wistful expression. Only then did he turn his gaze toward the sky. He raised his sword, and the light of yin and yang converged upon it as a chaotic crack extended outward. Cyril's sword fell. Boom! Heaven and earth resonated. A gate that had passed through countless spaces and broken through the barrier between the two worlds was slashed open. A white light illuminated the entire world, turning the night sky into day. Cyril's sword had opened the heavenly gate. Chapter 9:67. The barrier between the two worlds was broken by a single sword strike. The massive fissure was like a heavenly gate from which boundless light erupted. The extremely rich vital energy and familiar aura had Lin astonished. "This is the celestial court?" he exclaimed in shock. However, thinking about it from another perspective, it made sense. The only passageway between Earth and the Tai Chu continent was through the heavenly court. If Cyril wanted to return to the Tai Chu continent, he could only find that passageway by following the aura of the unseen world, then forcefully break through it. At the same time, on a certain floating continent, the divine tool, realm creation evil vanquishing sword, had sealed the protective formation around the floating continent. Black Spirit Snake was on a killing spree, and a dark divine light enshrouded the entire continent as countless Darkwing tribe living beings were reduced to dust amid blood-curdling wails. The Darkwing Emperor was enraged, and he was engaged in a fierce battle with Black Spirit Snake. "Black Spirit Snake, you've gone too far. You've killed so many living beings of my tribe, and I'm going to make you pay with your blood." The Darkwing Emperor's voice was like rumbling thunder as he tried to lure Black Spirit Snake away with every attack he unleashed. However, Black Spirit Snake refused to budge and insisted on fighting on the floating continent. A disdainful smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face. "You should have known this day would come when you invaded Earth 3 years ago. Her Majesty Nuwa's authority is inviolable, and now is the time for you to pay the price." When she was on Earth, she finally used the core of the formation and the spatial marker left behind by the Darkwing tribe to traverse boundless chaos and find the exact location of the Darkwing tribe. This was an earth-shattering battle, and destructive divine light swept through the entire continent. Black Spirit Snake's objective was very clear. The Darkwing Emperor was very powerful, and she didn't have the power to kill him. But it doesn't matter. I'm here to fight and destroy their lair. That's great too. All of the Darkwing tribe monarchs hid away to spectate. All of the other Darkwing tribe powerful beings were trembling uncontrollably as they fled for their lives. None of them dared to help the Darkwing Emperor. It was just like in the stories where a group of monsters would rush out to kill the boss to show how strong the enemy was. After they died, the strongest leader would come out to fight. This did not exist in this place. The warriors of the Darkwing tribe would immediately run to cover themselves or set up defensive spell formations, effectively reducing the number of casualties in battle. Do you think our boss could defeat Black Spirit Snake? Winning or losing, it's bad news for us. If we win, Goddess Nuwa will be enraged and personally take the field. How are we going to survive then? If we lose, we're going to be bullied again. Whether we live or die depends on Black Spirit Snake's mood. The Starry Night, true monarch, is wise. Then what should we do? I think we should make a strategic retreat now. This is the best way to preserve the strength of the great race. But our boss is still fighting. Are you stupid? The reason why our boss is fighting so desperately is to buy time for us to retreat. The Starry Night monarch is indeed wise, and farsighted. We'll listen to you. All of the Dark Wing tribe cultivators suddenly realized what was going on and retreated. Oh, all of your return to Void Stage monarchs are running away? A hint of a smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face as she looked at the fleeing monarchs with a teasing expression. The Dark Wing Emperor's chest constricted upon hearing this. F*CK. Why are they all running away when the enemy has reached their base? I haven't lost yet. I'm not forcing them to fight Black Spirit Snake. So why can't they just stand there and cheer her on? He cursed in his heart, but a mysterious smile appeared on his face. You don't understand. They're preparing a surprise for you. That's right, you don't understand the sorrow of being a Darkwing Emperor. Black Spirit Snake did not back down in the slightest upon hearing the Darkwing Emperor's words. If she really was afraid of the Darkwing tribe, she wouldn't have come here alone. One devastating spell technique after another was unleashed from her hands, causing the entire floating continent to tremor violently as if it were about to fall from the sky. All of a sudden, Black Spirit Snake's expression shifted drastically. Crap, Little Bai is in danger. She flipped her hand over, and the Divine Tool Realm Creation Evil Vanquishing Sword appeared in her hand before tearing open a spatial rift and departing from the black, floating continent. The Darkwing Emperor was dumbstruck for a few seconds at the sight of Black Spirit Snake's sudden departure. He then clasped his hands behind his back and raised his head. Oomph. She's just a Dao integration stage Black Spirit Snake, Nuwa's right-hand man, yet she still succumbed to my power and fled in panic. All of the Darkwing tribe, living beings on the black floating continent, erupted into raucous cheers upon hearing this. The Darkwing Emperor is invincible and invincible. The Darkwing Emperor is the pillar of our tribe, and he illuminates the world with his divine light. The Darkwing Emperor looks down upon the entire continent. All of the Darkwing tribe living beings on the floating continent erupted into raucous cheers as one monarch after another tore open a spatial rift and returned to join in the cheering. A faint smile appeared on the Darkwing Emperor's face. Even though Black Spirit Snake has been chased away by us, we still have to show some respect to Nuwa and erase the coordinates we left on Earth. Darkwing Emperor, wasn't easy for us to. A monarch was just about to retort with an indignant expression when the Darkwing Emperor waved a hand and cut him off. Stop dilly-dallying. The evil-slaying sword is no longer on Earth, so there's no point in us leaving the coordinates on Earth. The monarchs bowed their heads upon hearing this. Darkwing Emperor is wise. All the monarchs chimed in unison. Darkwing Emperor is wise. The Blackfeather Emperor snorted coldly. His eyes were misty and deep, and an unfathomable expression appeared on his face once more. If he didn't erase the coordinates now, what if Black Spirit Snake turned around and followed the coordinates to fight him again? He couldn't stand being ravaged by Black Spirit Snake again. He couldn't afford to mess with her, but he could at least hide. If he erased the coordinates they had left on Earth and erased all connections, then fled deep into the Taichu continent, Black Spirit Snake wouldn't be able to find them. A confident smile appeared on the Darkwing Emperor's face with this in mind. Within the Mongolian nation on Earth, Cyril opened the heavenly gate with his sword, and light illuminated the entire nation. Cattle and sheep scurried away in fear, and many people emerged from their tents or houses to stare at the white light in the distance with astonishment on their faces. They didn't know what was going on. Cyril was just about to make his way toward the gate of light. At this moment, a spatial rift appeared in the air. A woman with the lower body of a snake and the lower body of a human appeared with a divine tool in her hand. Cyril, she immediately yelled the man's name with an expression of shock on her face. Oh, aren't you the servant who's been following Nuwa around this entire time? The red-robed man looked at the woman with a hint of a smile on his face. Servant **S. The veins on the woman's forehead bulged. The woman was none other than Black Spirit Snake. She heaved a faint sigh of relief at the sight of White Spirit Snake, who was safe and sound. Black Spirit Snake then turned towards Cyril with a grave expression as she activated the power of the divine tool. You've come out. I've done what I had to do, so I naturally came out. A faint smile appeared on Cyril's face. "You look like you're in a good mood?" Black Spirit Snake asked again. "Are you trying to trick me? I might as well tell you that everything went well for me." Cyril didn't want to waste any more time, and he waved goodbye to Black Spirit Snake and everyone else. "The heavenly gate is about to close. Goodbye." His body disappeared into the heavenly gate as he spoke. Boom! The heavenly gate closed, and darkness returned to heaven and earth. And Lin looked on at Cyril's departing figure with yearning in his heart. He came and went like the wind, and no one could stop him. This was a true, powerful being. Chapter 968. The Celestial Court was the most powerful force in the Kingdom of the Nine States. This was an extremely revered and holy place, and there was no continent on the entire Tai Chu continent that dared to face such a colossus. However, at that instant, the South Heaven Gate that served as the gateway between the two worlds suddenly exploded. Some living beings had opened up a path with brute force. This matter alarmed the entire upper echelons of the Celestial Court. They had always been the ones who summoned back immortal envoys from the mortal world from the Southern Heavenly Gate. When had they ever encountered a mortal being who went against the rules and barged into the Celestial Court? Of the 5 Tao integration stage emperors, Emperor Zhui and the Celestial Arch arrived at the location where the Southern Heavenly Gate had exploded at almost the exact same moment. They cast their eyes toward the shattered Southern Heavenly Gate and stared into the dark passageway within with solemn expressions. The 2 god generals guarding the South Heaven Gate were already scared out of their wits. When had they ever encountered a situation where the Southern Heavenly Gate had been destroyed? This was simply incomprehensible. Emperor Zhui and the Celestial Thearch's expressions shifted again at the sight of a red-robed man making his way through the chaos. "Cyril, it's you." The Celestial Thearch glared at the newcomer with heavenly might in his eyes. "Long time no see, 2 emperors." Cyril smiled. Even though he was deep in the Celestial Court, his expression was still calm. "Don't be nervous. I'm just borrowing your passage to come back. I'll leave your place right away." After saying that, he reached into the void with one hand. As the space trembled, he took out 1,000,000 spirit stones and tossed them to the Celestial Arch. "This is the maintenance fee for the Southern Heaven Gate. Keep the change." The Celestial Thearch's lips twitched slightly at the sight of Cyril, but he didn't say anything. As for those very domineering words, such as Celestial Court is not a place where you can come and go as you please, they could not be said at all. To Cyril, the Celestial Court was a place where he could come and go as he pleased. It couldn't be helped. The leader of the heaven-crushing sect was just that badass. As for the heaven-mending sect, the Celestial Arch was only the second in command. Niwa was the true leader. Emperor Ziwei's lips twitched. He wanted to say that 1,000,000 spirit stones wasn't even close to being enough. However, when he thought about what Cyril had done in the past, he forced himself to hold back. It was best to send this plague away as soon as possible. "Since there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave." Cyril smiled and left. "Forgive me for not seeing you off." The Celestial Arch nodded. Although they were all fighting for the future of this world, they had completely different ideologies. People who walked different paths could not make plans together, not to mention that under certain circumstances they were even opponents. As such, the Celestial Arch couldn't be bothered to put on a show, and he simply told Cyril to piss off. Just like that, Cyril swaggered out of the Celestial Court. On the other side of the Southern Heaven Gate, on Earth, which had just successfully upgraded, Lin encountered Black Spirit Snake again. After seeing that White Spirit Snake was fine, Black Spirit Snake turned toward Lin and Tina with a mysterious smile on her face. She clearly had the features of a beautiful celestial maiden, but her smile was extremely horrifying. At least, that was what Lin felt. A chill ran down his spine. "Congratulations on leading Earth to new glory, Senior Black Spirit Snake." And Lin congratulated Black Spirit Snake with a respectful expression. He decided to strike first and change the subject. He emphasized the word senior so that Black Spirit Snake would be reminded of her status and not bully the weak. Black Spirit Snake gripped the divine tool in her hand with a smile on her face. "You're welcome. I'm just doing what I should do." Thank you for your hard work in slaying the snake monster for us. And Lin immediately puffed out his chest upon hearing this. Everyone is responsible for the rise and fall of the entire world. For the sake of peace and prosperity on earth, I will step forward without hesitation. Black Spirit Snake nodded. You're very thoughtful, so I've decided to give you a small reward. What reward? And Lin asked with anticipation on his face. He was then greeted by the sight of Black Spirit Snake's golden sword flying toward him. It was also expanding in his field of vision. That was a divine tool, realm creation, evil vanquishing sword. Even if it was a simple attack, its power was unimaginably terrifying. And Lin's body trembled in the face of the terrifying might of the divine tool, and he instinctively tightened his grip on his evil slaying sword before thrusting it toward the golden sword. The two swords clashed, and heaven and earth faltered. Boom! A deafening collision sound resounded, and terrifying energy exploded in an instant. Dabai, Xinyuan Cheng, White Spirit Snake, and the others all hurtled back in retreat to avoid the explosion. Stop, Big Sister Black! White Spirit Snake yelled in an urgent voice. And Lin was forced back a few steps by the power of the sword, but his eyes were extremely bright. He had blocked Black Spirit Snake's attack. Oh, you've improved a little. A faint smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face as she charged toward Lin. Golden sword intent erupted forth from her divine tool before crashing down upon Lin. And Lin's heart jolted with shock, and he unleashed everything he had to defend himself against Black Spirit Snake's attacks. However, Black Spirit Snake's attacks were extremely terrifying. Her power continued to increase, and her swordsmanship became more and more intricate, giving Lin no hope of winning. Boom, boom, boom. And Lin was knocked flying by the divine tool over and over again as Black Spirit Snake closed in on him. 6 strikes of the war god, Wind Sword. And Lin roared as his sword projection transformed into a white line that slashed toward Black Spirit Snake's head. Black Spirit Snake twisted her slender waist to evade the sword strike, and her golden sword crashed down upon Lin's chest with a boundless aura. That's right, she had slapped him with the back of her sword. PFFF, and Lin's organs trembled violently, and he threw up a mouthful of blood. At this moment, Black Spirit Snake was already charging toward Lin with an elated expression. And Lin could only defend against Black Spirit Snake's attacks with all his might. Is this the reward you were talking about? He roared with rage. Isn't an opportunity to battle a Dao integration stage mighty figure extremely precious? Black Spirit Snake was slowly revealing her battle instincts, and the more she slashed at Lin, the more excited she became. Don't force me. And Lin gritted his teeth. Black Spirit Snake gripped her sword with both hands and unleashed a golden sword projection that crashed down upon Lin like heavenly judgment, knocking him to the ground. Terrifying power crashed relentlessly into Lin's body, and he threw up another mouthful of blood. So what if I force you? What? Do you still have the power to resist? Black Spirit Snake made her way toward Lin with an elated expression on her face. Resist with all your might. The more you resist, the more excited I get. No one is going to save you even if you scream your lungs out anyway. And Lin, that stung. Could it be that Black Spirit Snake was a freak? However, she was right about one thing. No one was going to save Lin even if he screamed his lungs out. This space had already been isolated by Black Spirit Snake's spell technique, and neither Tina nor White Spirit Snake had the power to break through it, so they could only look on helplessly from outside. I'm a snake that keeps my word. I said that I'll beat the crap out of you every time I see you, and there will be no exceptions. Black Spirit Snake charged toward Lin again. Then don't blame me for this. And Lin's expression darkened upon hearing this, and he glowered at Black Spirit Snake. Chapter 969. Even though Black Spirit Snake didn't carry any killing intent, and Lin wasn't a coward who wouldn't retaliate just because he was bullied, and Neng's subservience to the rich and powerful, making me unable to be happy, is talking about the current him. And Lin glowered at Black Spirit Snake. Make you shit technique and make you cry technique were unleashed at the same time. Black Spirit Snake's expression suddenly shifted drastically, and she clasped a hand over her stomach as tears flowed from her eyes. Enlin, what did you do to me? Black Spirit Snake clasped her hands over her lower abdomen, and translucent tears flowed down her face as she sobbed like a weeping beauty. Enlin's heart jolted with shock. As expected of a Tao integration stage super mighty figure, Black Spirit Snake was able to resist the urge to sh*t herself. However, just as Black Spirit Snake was enduring the pain with all her might, it was time for him to retaliate. Boom! The origin energy of the netherworld erupted from his body. Enlin's aura soared explosively, and he possessed the aura of a return to void stage mighty figure for a short period of time. He leaped into the air, and his fist glowed with a golden light as he activated the Earth Lotus Supreme skill and infused it into his mountain-quaking fist. With golden void lightning as the core, the golden fist became more and more fearsome under the effects of the lightning amplification technique. At the same time, the true intent of the Dark Knight Monarch's darkness of origin began to fuse as the power of darkness and annihilation permeated the air. This wasn't the end. 6 divine flames and 1 holy flame also began to fuse into the fist. This was the power of the first stage of the Yang God cultivation method, the fire melting technique. The golden fist fused with the terrifying divine flames and holy flames, and the power of annihilation instantly twisted and collapsed the surrounding space. Black Spirit Snake raised her head to discover that the monstrous fist was already descending upon her. Taste my original super spell technique, lightning amplification, mountain quaking fist. The golden fist fell. In that instant, another sun appeared over the grassland. Countless cattle and sheep were given a second fright, and they began to riot again. Many people looked up at the sun in the distance with shock and horror. This miraculous phenomenon had left an indelible impression in their hearts. Some people kept praying in their hearts, while others felt their legs go weak. They were so scared that they hid under their blankets, shivering. The power of the earth was boundless and boundless. The power of the golden void lightning was capable of annihilating all things. The true intent of darkness of origin was capable of engulfing all things, and the holy flames were capable of incinerating all living beings. These 4 powers combined to unleash an unimaginably terrifying power. Thankfully, Black Spirit Snake had unleashed a spatial isolation technique. Otherwise, the entire Mongolian kingdom would have been obliterated. It was a power that could destroy an entire country. Sister Hay. White Spirit Snake looked on as Black Spirit Snake was engulfed by a terrifying power. Her worry had finally shifted. Her intuition told her that if she took Enlin's punch head-on, she would definitely be screwed. Xian Yuan Chung looked at the scene in front of him with a fiery gaze. Inspiration kept exploding in his heart. The earth tremored relentlessly as dazzling energy filled the entire space, crashing relentlessly into the spatial barriers set up by Black Spirit Snake. A series of tiny cracks began to appear on the seemingly indestructible barrier. This was a spell technique unleashed by a Tao integration stage mighty figure. Even if it was set up casually, it was enough to prove how terrifying the center of the explosion was. Aren't they sparring? Why do I feel like Enlin is going to kill Master Black? Battle God Ziyang swallowed in fear as he gazed at the energy that was destroying everything within its range. This Battle Goddess Bai Qiong also stared at the scene in front of her in disbelief. In the beginning, she had also thought that this was just a sparring match. After all, Black Spirit Snake hadn't used her full strength. She was just slowly torturing Enlin. She probably wanted Enlin to remember the pain he had suffered tonight. And then, did she get carried away? What kind of destructive weapon would be unleashed during a sparring match? Black Spirit Snake's gone too far. My big brother, and isn't someone to be trifled with, woof. Dabai felt like his anger had been greatly vented. Why was Black Spirit Snake the only one who could torment Big Brotherin? Why couldn't Big Brother and retaliate? If you wanted to retaliate, then you had to be prepared to be retaliated against instead. The destructive energy gradually dissipated, and Lin stood in the air, panting heavily. That powerful technique just then had expended a lot of his energy. Not only that, but he had also been affected by the terrifying explosion. However, he was standing on the outskirts of the explosion, so his divine body wasn't blasted open. This was the benefit of having the body of the war god. In the past, his defenses were too weak. Every time he used his nuclear missile fist, he would probably be bedridden for 10 days to half a month. However, now that he had a divine body, the chances of him being killed or severely injured by his own spell techniques were much lower. After all, his skin was thicker, and Lin gazed at the center of the explosion. At the center of the massive crater, the figure of a woman slowly emerged. Black Spirit Snake's black tunic had become extremely tattered, and her face was slightly charred black as she stared intently at Enlin with her inky black eyes. Enlin was extremely elated to think that this day would come for you. Then he felt a little faint from being stared at by her eyes. This was because Black Spirit Snake didn't say anything, nor did she do anything else. She didn't appear to be very angry. Instead, she merely stared at him expressionlessly. And Lin knew that this was the worst-case scenario. This meant that Black Spirit Snake was already on the verge of exploding with rage. F***CK. I've really gone too far. And Lin felt like he was going to be screwed. The atmosphere became more and more tense and tense. Black Spirit Snake's aura slowly seeped through the air. This was a profound and ethereal power, as if she were a goddess looking down upon this world. Everything in this world was as insignificant as dust in her eyes. This was Black Spirit Snake's true power. She had only been fooling around a while ago, only to be slapped in the face by Lin's fist. She was going to get serious now, and Lin turned toward White Spirit Snake for help. White Spirit Snake yelled for Big Sister Black to calm down and restrain herself, but Black Spirit Snake completely ignored her as her eyes remained fixed on Lin. And Lin didn't dare to move. If he moved now, Black Spirit Snake would most likely follow suit. The final result would be him being crushed. The two of them stared at each other in a tense standoff. All of a sudden, a ringing sound broke the silence. Black Spirit Snake's storage ring flashed, and a mirror appeared in her hand. An extremely gentle and pleasant voice began to appear. "Little Black, everything on Earth has been taken care of, so come back with the detector. Be a good girl." Black Spirit Snake stared at the mirror with an aggrieved expression, and she almost burst into tears. She then turned toward Lin, and she seemed to be trying her best to repress some sort of emotion. And Lin, remember this. Black Spirit Snake tore open a spatial rift and left without even turning back. And Lin, he looked at the direction that Black Spirit Snake had departed in, and a chill ran down his spine. It was as if there was a bomb hanging over his head, and it would explode the next time he encountered it. No, he had to become more powerful as soon as possible. He had to get to the return to Void stage as soon as possible in case he encountered Black Spirit Snake again. At the very least, he wouldn't be beaten to death if he wasn't careful. Battle intent ignited in Lin's heart, and his desire to break through to the return to Void stage became even stronger. Chapter 970. After Black Spirit Snake left, Tina and the others rushed toward Lin. "Giant and Lin, are you all right?" Tina asked anxiously. She didn't forget to cast a healing technique on Lin as she spoke. "I'm fine. It's just a minor injury." And Lin patted Tina's little head with a smile. "Big brother, and that nuclear fist of yours was so bad *SS. Woof." Dabai clapped its paws excitedly. Xin Yuan Chung nodded in agreement. It was indeed very bad *SS. The perfect fusion of different types of energy transformed the essence of the spell technique. Then it detonated. That was amazing. At this moment, White Spirit Snake also made her way over with an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry, Senior and Lin. I didn't think that Big Sister Black would be so stubborn. I'll be sure to persuade her to not repeat what happened today." And Lin sighed with emotion as he looked at the adorable woman before him. Why did these two sisters have such a huge personality gap? Why didn't Black Spirit Snake learn how to be a snake from White Spirit Snake? then you really have to persuade Black Spirit Snake. Harmony is the most important thing. Harmony brings wealth, understand? And Lin spoke in a meaningful and heartfelt voice. All right, don't worry. I'll make sure that Big Sister Black understands. White Spirit Snake nodded with determination in her bright eyes. It was clear that she was treating this as a mission. Battle Goddess Bai Qiong and Battle God Ziyang felt a wave of despair wash over them upon seeing this. If only Master White could be as decisive and domineering as Master Black. Why didn't Master White learn how to be a snake from Master Black? I still have some things to take care of. Senior Lin, I'm really sorry. See you next time. White Spirit Snake was a little reluctant. All right, go ahead. And Lin nodded. White Spirit Snake tore open a spatial passageway and left with Bai Qiong and Ziyang. And Lin and Xianyuan Cheng also returned to the North Mist Mountain to rest. This matter was finally resolved satisfactorily. All of the flaws and potential threats on Earth had been eliminated. Next, the world would usher in a new chapter of cultivation. That night was perhaps a strange one for most of the living beings in the world. The vitality became even denser, and this would subtly influence the bodies of living beings. Some creatures with insufficient cultivation aptitude might have the opportunity to enter the world of cultivation. Even those without cultivation aptitude would have some improvements in all aspects of their physical abilities. The next day, all kinds of urgent reports came in. Hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions. Natural disasters were reported one after another. The entire world was in an uproar, and all sorts of doomsday theories began to appear. There were even riots in some chaotic regions. And Lin helplessly looked at the people who had fallen into a state of panic. If there really was a threat of the apocalypse, they had already dealt with it last night. As for the so-called apocalypse calamity, it was actually an environmental anomaly caused by the leveling up of the world last night. It should not happen again in the future. Of course, the world would not believe these explanations. The only way to calm them down was to let time prove it. When they discovered that nothing had happened a year later, the doomsday theories would naturally fall apart on their own. And Lin, Xianyuan Cheng, Dabai, and Tina made their way toward the mystic realm connected to the celestial court, intending to have the divine general open the passageway to take them back. However, they were all dumbstruck by a piece of news. The passageway between the two worlds was currently under repair, so it could not be opened at the moment. And Lin, Dabai, Xianyuan Cheng heaved a faint sigh. It must have been that domineering Cyril who did this, right? And Lin's expression darkened. F*CK off. Open your F*King heavenly gate with a single sword strike. Why do we have to bear the consequences of his flexing? Perhaps he's a big shot, woof. Dabai also wore a resigned expression. Thus, everyone returned to the mortal world with dejected expressions. I'm going to go take a look at the Department of Defense. What about you, classmate and Lin? Xianyuan Cheng asked. I'm going to see my father, then I'll go and broaden my horizons with Little Na. Tina was quite interested in the mortal world, seeing as they couldn't return to the celestial court, and Lin decided to travel around this world with her. Yay! I'm going to have some fun in Lin's hometown. Tina was extremely excited as she transformed into a young woman with golden hair and blue eyes. Gasp! Little Na, you look like this. And Lin stared at the young woman beside him with astonishment on his face. The young woman had a head of golden wavy hair that extended all the way down to her waist, which was dazzling and mesmerizing under the sun. Her blue eyes were as translucent as gems, and her skin was as smooth as jade. She had a slender waist and long legs, and her features were impeccably exquisite. Tina latched onto Lin's arm with a vibrant smile on her face. Chan and Lin, now that I've grown bigger, other humans won't find it strange to see me anymore. Isn't that smart? And Lin's lips twitched. No, other humans will still find it strange. Why? A perplexed expression appeared on Tina's face, and Lin replied, They'll wonder how such a flawless and perfect woman could exist in this world. A faint blush appeared on Tina's face. Giant and Lin, is it really okay for you to praise Little Na like that? I'm not praising you. I'm just telling the truth. And Lin replied with a serious expression. Tina's current appearance was definitely going to cause quite a stir. That kind of beauty was no longer of the mortal world. Even celestial maidens weren't as beautiful as her. And Lin thought about it for a moment before giving Tina a blue stealth suit. This was a rather good-looking magic tool that could conceal one's aura and reduce one's sense of presence. Thus, the two of them led the shrunken Dubai on a joyful shopping spree. They passed through a bustling commercial street. Along the way, Tina was amazed by all types of interesting merchandise. She loved intricate handicrafts, as well as digital electronic products. She was also very interested in all types of trendy fashion. She was like a curious baby, and she studied everything she saw wherever she went. Everything was just scenery to her. To the passers-by, she was also an extremely beautiful sight. Even with the stealth suit to conceal her sense of presence, many people were still envious of her beauty. If it weren't for the fact that she was accompanied by a man and a dog, perhaps many people would have tried to strike up a conversation with her. After that, they went to visit the culturally rich Forbidden City, where they killed a few little ghosts along the way. After that, they climbed the Great Wall of China, which stretched for tens of thousands of kilometers. They also went to climb Hua Mountain. The young woman's lithe and graceful figure leaped up the steep steps without relying on the chains, and this gave the tourists below a fright. If the young woman accidentally fell down, they would be in trouble as well. After getting tired, they went to the picturesque city of Aden to take a nap. Tina lay on a little bed materialized from spell technique and looked up at the pristine white snow mountain and the red leaves on the mountain. She hummed a song that she had heard from the mortal world. And the sky of Chang'e is still so warm. The wind blows the past. When I first saw this world, I was filled with nostalgia. The horizon seemed to be right before my eyes, and I was willing to go through fire and water to see it again. And Lin listened silently to Tina's voice. Tina's voice was crisp and natural, making one feel extremely comfortable and at ease. It had to be said, listening to her sing was a form of enjoyment. And Lin sighed with emotion at the sight of Tina's elated and excited expression. He had once promised Tina that he would take her to see the beauty of the outside world. He had finally fulfilled this promise, and he had even fulfilled it in excess of what he had promised. Not only had Tina seen the prosperity of the Tai-Chu continent, but she had also seen the prosperity and beauty of Earth. Not only that, but she had also obtained a divine mirror world with limitless potential. Both the wind and the sky here were extremely peaceful and tranquil. The three of them and the dog were all immersed in this small world. After what seemed like an eternity, Giant and Lin, let's go overseas, Tina suddenly suggested. And Lin faltered slightly before a doting smile appeared on his face. Sure. Chapter 971. On the west coast of the United States. On a sunny beach. People were basking in the sun on the beach, enjoying a relaxing beach life. After the various natural disasters, peace had returned to Earth. Experts had already refuted the rumors, explaining that this was a rare but normal tectonic movement. They urged the public not to panic and not to give up eating for fear of choking. Not long after the tsunami passed, many people began to play on the beach. A boy was building a sandcastle on the beach with an extremely focused expression. All of a sudden, the sandcastle began to tremble lightly before cracking open. What happened? The boy looked at the sandcastle with a perplexed expression. Mommy, my sandcastle cracked. The boy ran over and patted the back of a naked woman lying on the beach. Don't bother me, Galen. If the sandcastle cracked, just use sand to cover the cracks, the woman replied in a lazy voice. Boom! The ground tremored lightly. Mommy, the sandcastle collapsed. Galen pouted and wanted to cry. The woman couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the sad boy. He was just a child after all. All he needed to do was cry. Perhaps he would find something new to do the next second. Mommy, what a big wave. Galen patted the woman's back with a surprised expression. The woman was getting a little impatient. Galen, don't bother me all the time. But, that wave is really big. It's as tall as a house. Galen patted his mother, who was sunbathing with a pitiable expression. The woman faltered upon hearing this. At this moment, she heard screams erupting from the beach. She stood up and looked behind her. There were many bare-chested women running around with 2 white balls bobbing up and down. However, that wasn't the point. The woman looked at the ocean in the distance, and her legs turned to jelly. The sun had dimmed. It wasn't because the clouds had obscured the sun, but rather it was because the ocean had obscured the sun. That's right, there was a gargantuan tsunami in front of her. It covered the entire coastline and was over 100 meters tall. It was like a ferocious primordial beast crashing down with a huge amount of seawater. "Mommy, this wave is a little high. Let's run." Galen was panicking. The woman's lips twitched, but she couldn't say anything. Run? Such a terrifying tsunami could instantly engulf the coastline and even the city along the coast. Where could they escape to? Due to their survival instincts, most people fled. Some people stared blankly at the apocalyptic scene in front of them. Some were scared silly, while others wanted to remember the final moments. The woman hugged the boy tightly and sobbed. "Garen, I love you." At this last moment, she just wanted to hug her child. "Mother." Galen instinctively patted the woman's back. He didn't realize that he was going to die. He looked at the tourists who were running for their lives, wondering why his mother didn't run away. Mommy, look, there's a strange person over there, and he's walking toward it." Garen exclaimed as he pointed in a certain direction. The woman's curiosity was piqued upon hearing this, and she turned her gaze toward the direction Galen was pointing at. "Is this a Cathayan?" A half-naked man in blue beach shorts was walking toward the tsunami step by step. As for why the woman said that he was a Cathayan, it was because only a man from a Huan nation could have such a clean and handsome face. Beside the man was a slender woman with a head of beautiful golden hair. Her facial features couldn't be seen, but judging from her perfect figure, she couldn't be too unattractive. The two of them were walking toward the tsunami, creating a stark contrast with the people who were running away, and they attracted a lot of attention. The woman and Galen stared at the man with dumbstruck expressions. A streak of light flashed, and a black longsword appeared in the man's hand. What's going on? What's he trying to do? The woman's eyes widened. The tsunami covered the sky and covered the earth, blocking out the sun. Death and despair enshrouded everyone's hearts. A deafening boom erupted, and the earth trembled violently as a manifestation of the terrifying power of the tsunami. At this moment, the man wielding the black sword slashed toward the gargantuan tsunami. Heaven and earth abruptly fell silent at that instant. A white gust of wind spanned several kilometers before slashing toward the oncoming tsunami like a silver sword. Everyone felt as if a white light had flashed between heaven and earth. Immediately after, the huge wave that was rushing over like a giant beast was pushed back by the light slash. The white sword of light swept forth like a bulldozer, knocking back the all-engulfing tsunami in an extremely violent manner. The sword intent extended all the way to the edge of the sea and the sky. The deafening boom and the tremors of the earth all disappeared. Countless people who were screaming and fleeing felt as if something was amiss, and they turned to look behind them, upon which their mouths gaped open in astonishment. Countless splashes of water fell into the air, glistening with a translucent sheen under the sunlight. Splash, 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 it was raining. This was the rain that fell from the gargantuan tsunami. As for the destructive tsunami that was threatening to engulf them, it had already disappeared. My God, am I dreaming? What happened? The tsunami disappeared? I seem to have heard an extremely crisp sound, the sound of howling winds, and the sound of something crashing into something. God bless us! This must be a miracle. God saved us. Many people wept tears of joy, and some even fell to their knees, thanking the invisible God that existed only in their imagination. A small number of people had noticed the mysterious man wielding the sword, and they began to yell. It's him. He used his sword to repel the tsunami. He saved us. He's our God. Let's go and thank him. However, when everyone turned to look at the mysterious man again, they discovered that he had already disappeared. Repel the tsunami with a single sword strike? That kind of power could only appear in myths and legends. Those who didn't witness what had happened merely laughed it off, thinking that it was just a hallucination from the excitement of escaping death. Or perhaps the tsunami had suddenly disappeared, and those people couldn't find an explanation for it, so they came up with a lie. A mother and son stood on the beach, staring blankly into a certain direction. They had witnessed the entire process of the man repelling the tsunami, and they had also witnessed the man treading on the waves like an immortal. Only a god could do something like that. So there really are gods in this world? No. According to the Hua people, that's an immortal. The woman murmured to herself as she stared blankly into the distance. Look, Mommy, there's a rainbow in the sky. Galen pointed up into the sky with an elated smile. The woman looked up. Mist permeated the air, and a vibrant rainbow stretched across the seaside, appearing extremely beautiful under the sunlight. Chapter 972. On the boundless ocean, a man was traversing atop the waves. Sigh, I can't even take a good vacation. Big brother, and a vacation with scenery and a chance to flex is a real vacation. Woof. A miniature white dog chimed in from behind him. Giant and Lin, we were able to save so many people during this vacation. It's so meaningful. A golden-haired woman chimed in with emotion. The man massaged his brows, feeling a little speechless. That's right. The mysterious man who had forced back the tsunami with a single sword strike was none other than Lin. They had initially wanted to bask in the sun on the beach, but they encountered a massive tsunami. They had initially wanted to keep a low profile, but they had no choice but to intervene. This tsunami doesn't appear to be a natural disaster. Earth's environment should have already calmed down as a result of its leveling up, so there's no reason for a disaster like this to occur, and Lin said. Giant and Lin, are you saying some other living being is behind this? Tina asked, and Lin nodded. That's right. I'm currently using my divine sense to detect any abnormalities in this ocean. Not long after that, and Lin's expression shifted. Over there. He turned toward a certain direction in the west. Tina immediately tore open a spatial passageway, and the three of them leaped into it. In the next instant, they appeared in the depths of the ocean. The terrifying water pressure came crashing down, and the force was so terrifying that it could even flatten a piece of iron. And Lin and the others had already reached an unimaginably powerful level, so they naturally weren't worried about this water pressure. Their expressions remained unchanged, and they continued onward. At the bottom of the ocean, where light couldn't reach, this place was completely pitch black. However, there was one place that was glowing with a peculiar red light. This was a twisting trench, which looked like the sharp claws of a demon from afar. Giant and Lin, why are all the creatures here so ugly? Tina was a little fearful as she looked at the strange-looking fish swimming past her. In terms of power, she was naturally able to defeat these strange fish. However, these fish were all extremely frightening. In terms of appearance, these strange fish had successfully given her a fright. Why are you so ugly? And Lin was startled when he heard that. Then, he said, it's so dark in the deep sea. No one can see each other. Of course, they just grow randomly. Tina, as if enlightened, Dabai clapped his claws and said, looks like the deep sea is the worst place to look at one's face. It's a clean stream in this evil world that looks at one's face. It must be a mudslide. And Lin casually swatted away a sawtooth fish that pounced at him and said angrily. As the two people and the dog got closer, they finally saw the red light. It was a pair of blood-red pupils, like lanterns leading the way, releasing a dark red glow in the dark space. The pitch-black mountain range that stretched for dozens of miles was its body. Its tail gently swayed, as if every movement it made could change the flow of the ocean. The dragon's head was as thick as a mountain, and it was staring at Lin and the others expressionlessly. Have we encountered the Dragon King of the East Sea? Woof. Dabai was a little nervous. No. This is the Dragon King of the East Sea. And Lin denied with an extremely calm expression. The dragon's head didn't say anything, but a hint of disdain appeared in its eyes. It exhaled lightly, and the seawater converged to form a violent vortex that enshrouded Lin and the others. Perhaps in its eyes, These living beings were nothing more than trash. Unlin abruptly slapped his palm toward the vortex, and the seawater surged violently as the vortex was shattered by an extremely fearsome power. The power of his palm crashed down upon the dragon's head, flattening its massive face. Ow! The dragon's head let loose a wail of anguish, and it felt as if it had been slapped in the face as blood trickled down from the corner of its mouth. Flexing in front of me, Unlin harumphed coldly as he continued toward the dragon's head. The dragon's expression finally shifted as it roared in a thunderous voice. "Who the hell are you?" Tina blinked in confusion. "What's it saying?" "It's asking who we are in English," and Lin explained patiently. "Hi, my name is Tina." Tina greeted the dragon's head with a polite smile before reminding Enlin. "Giant Enlin, translate for me." Enlin's expression darkened. "Are we here to make friends, or what? Do we have to introduce ourselves? Is there a need to be so friendly? I can't translate that for you." He ignored Tina as he spoke as he made his way toward the dragon's head. "I'm someone you can't afford to mess with." As soon as his voice fell, he unleashed a mountain-quaking fist toward the dragon's head. The dragon's expression shifted again, and it opened its mouth to blast forth scorching lava like a red pillar of water. The terrifying temperature caused the seawater to churn violently, and countless strange fish shrieked in anguish as they were cooked in the seawater. The lava breath collided with the golden fist, and the resulting explosion created a vacuum in the seawater. Then, right before the astonished eyes of the dragon's head, the golden fist broke through its breath. Boom! Ow! The massive dragon's head was knocked flying by the golden mountain-quaking fist. Its mountainous body also tumbled violently. Enlin stepped forward, and his body tore through the seawater as he charged toward the massive dragon at an extremely fast speed. The dragon's expression shifted drastically as it roared. "You! Howl! It didn't even get a chance to finish its sentence before terrifying golden fists rained down upon it. Each and every one of those fists was able to dent its body, which was harder than steel, causing it to howl with anguish. Its massive body was several dozen kilometers in length as it thrashed about on the seabed, creating violent currents that pulverized all life forms around it. 15 minutes later, the massive dragon was on the brink of death, and it lay limply on the seabed. During this period of time, no matter how much it resisted, it was unable to harm Enlin in the slightest. It had finally fallen into despair. The human before it was far more powerful than it was. "Please spare me, Senior. I have no vendetta against you, so there must be some kind of misunderstanding." The massive dragon lowered its head and begged for mercy with an aggrieved expression. Enlin stood on the dragon's head with a cold smile. "Misunderstanding? So you weren't the one who caused the tsunami on the beach?" The massive dragon faltered slightly upon hearing this before hurriedly explaining, "Listen to me, Senior. There's a reason for that. A mysterious ball appeared at the bottom of the sea due to a tectonic shift. I was trying to break the ball open, but I used too much force and accidentally triggered the tsunami. I really didn't do it on purpose." However, Enlin wasn't going to buy it. "So you don't have to take responsibility just because you didn't do it on purpose? If I hadn't been there, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of lives would have been lost." The massive dragon opened its mouth, but at this moment, a series of golden fists rained down on its body. Boom, 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 howl. The wretched cries of the massive dragon reverberated throughout the seabed. 15 minutes later, the massive dragon lay on the seabed, barely breathing. Apart from breathing, it didn't want to do anything else. "I was wrong. I apologize. I was wrong. I apologize." It repeated this sentence over and over again as it succumbed to Enlin's tyranny. Enlin harumphed coldly. "Don't think that you're invincible just because you've broken through to the return to void stage. If you dare to make a mistake again, you'll become food for my frying pan." Yes. Senior is right. I'll never make such a stupid mistake again." The massive dragon was almost moved to the point of tears. It was finally going to survive. It was the ruler of the sea. So when had it ever suffered such humiliation? It was the most powerful being on earth, and It had broken through to the return to void stage during the cataclysmic changes on Earth, so it was in its prime. Aside from the one in the east, it was invincible. Who would have thought that it would be beaten by a mysterious human after only a few days? And Lin was quite pleased with the massive dragon's attitude. Now it's time for you to tell me about that ball, right? A hesitant expression appeared on the massive dragon's face. The ball was an extremely precious secret to it, one that it was determined to unravel even at the expense of the entire human world. It then sensed a golden fluctuation above its head, and its body shuddered as it spoke in an urgent voice. I'll tell you right now. Chapter 973. The golden light in his hand finally dissipated upon seeing the dragon's submission, and a smile appeared on Lin's face. You're smart. Tell me everything you know. The giant dragon was confused. Was this man trying to seek justice for the human race? Or was he trying to take advantage of this situation to rob it? However, regardless of what his motives were, the giant dragon could only do one thing. Sigh, I'm still too weak. It heaved a forlorn sigh as it dragged its battered body toward a certain direction. Not long after, they came to the side of a sphere. This ball was bronze in color, and it was impossible to tell what material it was made of. It had a diameter of over 100 meters, and it lay silently within a massive crater. I can sense the boundless power of the ocean within this ball, but I'm unable to use it. Regardless of whether it's through bloodline refinement, spell techniques, or physical attacks, I'm unable to uncover the secrets of this ball, the giant dragon explained. It had discovered a treasure, but it was unable to use it. The tsunami it had caused earlier was actually a result of the giant dragon trying to break open the ball and unleashing a powerful technique to no avail. And Lin's eyes lit up at the sight of the ball, and he chuckled as he said, "This proves that you're not meant to be with this ball." What the F***ck are you talking about? The giant dragon's chest constricted, and it wanted to say something, but the words were stuck in its throat. It had no choice. Lin was far too powerful, and the giant dragon had just broken through to the return of void stage, so it wanted to live for a while longer, so it was best not to piss him off at a time like this. And Lin could sense that this ball was imbued with the power of the ocean, and its energy fluctuations were comparable to that of an immortal tool, so it was definitely of an extraordinary quality. Tina flew around the ball and said, "This big ball is a natural object formed by heaven and earth. It's most likely a treasure that was born after Earth's level increased. It's a very powerful treasure. Oh my, Brother Giant Dragon, I've encountered this ball here. If I can figure out how to use this ball, then I should be able to prove that I'm fated to meet this ball, right?" And Lin asked with a smile. "You? What do you mean, Senior?" The giant dragon asked with a pitiable expression. "What I mean is, this is ownerless. If I can use it, then it's mine. Am I right?" And Lin asked cheerfully. How could the colossal dragon dare to disagree? Hot tears welled up in its eyes as it said, "Senior is right. That makes perfect sense." The one with the biggest fist was the tyrant. No one dared to disobey the tyrant's words. And Lin nodded with satisfaction before flying over to the mysterious ball and slowly studying it. The giant dragon looked at Lin's back, its heart still filled with anticipation. This mysterious giant ball was like a flawless shell, and finding a way to crack it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Perhaps this human would be able to back off, and Lin fiddled with it for a while and looked at the big ball in confusion. The gigantic dragon sneered in its heart. It had studied this ball for several days, but to no avail. It could not even put it into a spatial magic tool. It would be strange if this man could break it easily. And Lin thought for a moment. Forget it. I won't be pretentious. I'll just use my cheat. Divine inspection technique. He stroked the ball, and a white light flashed past his eyes as a huge amount of information began to flow into his mind. Large water ball, world-level immortal tool, materialized from the power of the ocean when Earth was upgraded. After filling the ball with water, the user's power of water will be able to unleash a fearsome weight, kinetic energy impact, and gravitational suppression. The specific refinement method was as follows. Use the blood of a god of creation to carve the formation below, Then use your own blood to refine it. Then add water, 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 until the white circle disappears. Only then will the water be successfully infused. And Lin, no wonder the giant dragon was unable to refine this ball. It required the blood of a god of creation to do so. Was he supposed to ask Nuwa for help? That was obviously not going to happen. The method of infusing water was also quite peculiar. All he had to do was add water, 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 water. The only thing he didn't understand was what the hell was a world-level immortal tool. Immortal tools could be categorized as world-level and non-world-level. Regardless of what this rank was, it sounded really bad *SS. This really is fate. And Lin smiled. If someone else came here, they would probably be at a loss, but I'm just in time. He turned toward Tina. Little Na, can I borrow your blood? That's right, gods of creation were extremely rare even on the entire continent, but he just so happened to have a god of creation by his side, and that was Tina. Sure. Tina didn't even ask why as she slid a slender finger across her wrist, upon which a drop of blood drifted toward Lin. The giant dragon's pupils contracted as it stared at Lin with confusion in its eyes. What was this man trying to do? Why was he using the blood of that golden-haired woman? Even if he was trying to refine it with bloodline, shouldn't he be using his own blood? Immediately afterward, the human male used the blood of the golden-haired woman to carve an extremely complex spell formation onto the ball before dripping his own golden blood essence onto the center of the spell formation. Done. Refinement is successful. And Lin nodded with satisfaction. Boom! The ball suddenly tremored violently, and the seawater within a radius of over 50 kilometers began to surge along with it. The giant dragon's eyes widened with incredulity as it stared at Lin. He refined it just like that? This doesn't make sense. How could it be so easy? No one answered its question, and Lin gently patted the brass ball, upon which a white halo began to appear. Then, a huge amount of seawater began to flow into the ball like a vortex. The giant dragon was in complete despair upon seeing this. The fact that Lin was able to use this ball meant that he had truly refined it. The vortex encompassed an extremely large area, and in order to prevent itself from being sucked in, the giant dragon had to use spell techniques to stabilize its mountainous body. However, the ball was like a bottomless pit that continued to devour seawater. 100 tons, 10,000 tons, 1,000,000 tons, 100 million tons. The giant dragon was completely dumbstruck. Was there no end to this ball? Was it going to suck up all the water in the Pacific Ocean? After what seemed like an eternity, the brass ball of water suddenly burped. And Lin understood what was going on and stopped pouring water into it. Instead, he made a series of hand seals and stowed the ball into his storage ring. The giant dragon stared at Lin with an envious expression, not taking into account anything else. Just the fact that this ball could absorb so much water was already far beyond its imagination, and it knew that this was an extraordinary item. However, what was the point of knowing that it was bad *SS? It could only watch as someone else used it. Brother Giant Dragon, it looks like this ball is indeed fated to be with me. And Lin patted the giant dragon's horn with a pleased expression. But why did this look so cheap in the giant dragon's eyes? The giant dragon really wanted to tell Lin to *CK off after he was done with the ball, but the words came out of its mouth instead. Congratulations on obtaining the mysterious ball, Senior. This is all thanks to Brother Giant Dragon's help. And Lin looked at the giant dragon with a grateful expression. It's not called the mysterious ball. After all, you discovered it first, so there's no harm in telling you. It's called the world-grade immortal tool, large water ball. The giant dragon shuddered upon hearing this, and a mouthful of blood welled up in its chest. It had really been dealt a heavy blow this time. Immortal tool. That was an immortal tool. It had just missed out on a legendary immortal tool. Brother Giant Dragon, I'll be going now. Remember not to harm humans anymore. And Lin bade farewell to the giant dragon in a carefree manner. He didn't take a single cloud with him, but he did take a water ball with him. Chapter 974. Who would have thought that I would be able to obtain a treasure during a vacation? And Lin stroked his storage ring and sensed the powerful energy fluctuations emanating from the ball of water within it, and a smile appeared on his face. Dabai interjected, "Big brother, and shouldn't we celebrate this joyous occasion?" Woof. And Lin rolled his eyes and gave Dabai a second-grade spirit pill before giving Tina a first-grade spirit pill as well. Dabai's eyes widened. "What do you mean Little Na has a first-grade spirit pill while I have second-grade spirit pill?" Woof. And Lin chuckled. "Little Na exerted herself and bled a lot. How can a bystander like you compare?" Dabai was speechless. A vibrant smile appeared on Tina's face as she patted Dabai's head in a thoughtful manner. "Here, Dabai, this spirit pill is yours too." Dabai's eyes widened with shock and gratitude. "Little Na, are you not going to eat a spirit pill?" "No, I can't take it." It knew that in Lin's method of distribution was not wrong. If it really took Tina's spirit pill, then it would be as shameless as in Lin. "I'm fine, just take it. There are many spirit fruits in my divine mirror world. You can go there if you want," Tina replied with a nonchalant expression. Dabai finally recalled the true identity of this woman, and he silently put away the spirit pill she had given him. Wasn't he just bored of wasting a spirit pill with a god of creation? "Big brotherin, where are we going now?" Woof. Dabai swallowed a spirit pill and narrowed its eyes with bliss. I'm going to Changbai Mountain," and Lin replied. "Changbai Mountain? Is it fun there?" Tina asked curiously, and Lin smiled. "There's a zombie goddess there. I want to communicate with her." Zombie goddess? Why does this name sound so familiar? Dabai was confused for a few seconds before he suddenly recalled the scene from 2 years ago. His eyes widened in shock. "Big brotherin, so that's what you want to do? Amazing. You still can't forget her after so long? But her figure is really great." As he spoke, it was clear that Dabai was also excited, and there was a mysterious smile on his face. Tina, on the other hand, was at a loss. What was Lin trying to do? He felt that it was not a good thing. "What are you guys talking about?" Tina asked curiously, and Lin coughed lightly. Dabai, why don't you take Tina for a stroll? I'm going to Changbai Mountain, and I'll be back soon." "Big brotherin, how dare you abandon me?" "I don't agree, I want to go too." Woof. Dabai was immediately displeased. He also wanted to see the zombie goddess, and Lin stared straight at Dabai. "Why are you going there?" Dabai suddenly sensed a powerful killing intent, and his body shuddered as he forced a smile onto his face. "Little Na, where do you want to go?" "I'll go with you, Woof." Tina pouted, clearly displeased with Lin for not taking her with him. "Let's go to the South Pole first. I want to see the Aurora Borealis." "All right, big brotherin, I'll be waiting for you." Dabai flew toward the south with Tina in tow, and Lin heaved a light sigh of relief before flying toward the Changbai mountain ranges atop his black brick. Thinking back, in order to preserve his first kiss, he had refused the system's mission and missed out on the god cultivation method. He had even been frozen into a block of ice as a punishment. Those painful experiences were still fresh in his mind. Now he had decided to redeem himself and complete the god cultivation method. He had no choice. This was a necessary path for him to reach the return to void stage. So he had no choice but to sacrifice himself. The huge black brick broke through the clouds and landed in the middle of the mountain range. "So this is the Changbai mountain range. I hope you're still here." A faint smile appeared on Lin's face. In the past, it would have been extremely difficult for him to find the zombie goddess in such a vast area. But now, his consciousness was comparable to that of a top-rate return to void stage mighty figure. So there was a good chance that he could find the zombie goddess with his divine sense. Unless the zombie goddess was intentionally concealing her aura, he would definitely be able to detect her if she used her ability. And Lin sat down on the black brick with his legs crossed and closed his eyes. Boom! His divine sense instantly expanded to a radius of over 50 kilometers as he sensed the energy fluctuations around him. This was the area with the most abundant vital energy in the Changbai mountain range. If the zombie goddess was still active in the Changbai mountain range, then she was most likely nearby. And Lin sensed the scenes of ferocious wolves tearing apart wild beasts, as well as the scenes of giant pythons devouring ferocious tigers. These ferocious beasts continued to battle within the Changbai mountain range, but he didn't sense any higher-level energy fluctuations. He was very patient as he sat on the spot and waited for an opportunity. Night fell. Everything was deathly silent with the occasional wolf howl. The Yin energy slowly became more and more abundant. Lin could sense that some undead energy bodies were becoming active. Some corpses even crawled out of the ground and wandered through the forest, absorbing the Yin energy around them. Suddenly, a burst of pure Yang energy erupted in the distance. "Oh, interesting. Is that a Taoist priest?" Lin asked with a hint of intrigue. On a certain mountain range within the Changbai mountain range, a man wielding a peachwood sword was relentlessly harvesting low-rank zombies that were crawling out of the ground. This man was quite powerful, with a cultivation base of around the 10th stage Tao body. Normal zombies were no match for him. As the saying went, if you beat the young, the old will come. This was quite true. A zombie king began to appear, and the rich energy of death began to proliferate through the air. And Lin felt like this was an opportunity, and he unleashed his Mist Immortal technique to sneak toward the battlefield. "Ha ha ha, Jiang Xiangyang. I didn't think you would dare to come to the Changbai Mountain. Today is the anniversary of your death." The spirit-nurturing stage Zombie King was already sentient, and it pounced toward the man with a sinister smile on its face. Jiang Xiangyang raised a sword in front of him, and the Zombie King's crimson claws swiped violently at the peachwood sword. The terrifying energy of death instantly corroded the peachwood sword, and the man was knocked flying by the energy of death as he threw up a mouthful of blood. Jiang Xiangyang fell to the ground, but a smile appeared on his face. "Hee, the anniversary of my death? My God, I came here to lure you out and get rid of you, master." As he shouted, a man dressed in a blue Taoist robe flew over on a sword. The Zombie King's expression shifted drastically in that instant. Elder of the Shangqing sect, Sun Han. Sun Han laughed heartily. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. "Zombie King Crimson Claws, you won't be able to escape, so accept your fate." And Lin clicked his tongue in wonder as he hid in the shadows. Who would have thought that after beating up the young, the old would come? Interesting, interesting. Sun Han slashed his sword toward the Zombie King, and a golden sword projection as scorching as flames instantly struck the Zombie King's body, tearing through its protective energy of death. The Corpse King's body was torn open and it tumbled to the ground. The raging flames seemed to be inextinguishable as they continued to burn on its body. A spirit-nurturing final stage cultivator against a spirit-nurturing initial stage cultivator was going to be decided in a single strike. Just as Sun Han was feeling confident that victory was in his grasp, a seductive chuckle sounded in the distance. Sun Han, you've killed so many of my adorable subordinates, and I've finally lured you out today." Black mist suddenly appeared in the distance, enshrouding the two of them like two dragons. An extremely powerful aura descended, and the temperature suddenly dropped to a freezing point, and even the flames on the Zombie King's body were snuffed out by the cold. Lin's eyes lit up at this moment. He had waited for so long, and his prey had finally arrived. Sun Han didn't see the being who had spoken, and his legs trembled as his expression shifted drastically. "You're the zombie god of Changbai Mountain." Chapter 975. Looks like I'm quite famous. A powerful aura descended, and Jiang Xiangyang and Sun Han were almost unable to breathe. A woman slowly made her way through the black mist. Her skin was fair and smooth, and her features were seductive and seductive. Her long black hair fell to her waist, and her upper body was completely nude. Her slender waist was wrapped in a grass skirt, and her two long and sexy legs were exposed to the air, making people's imaginations run wild. And Lin silently swallowed as he observed the situation from the shadows. That's right, it's her. It's that familiar zombie goddess. Aside from the fact that her aura had become more powerful, there was no other change. Jiang Xiangyang and Sun Han felt chills run down their spines at the sight of the zombie goddess's seductive and seductive appearance. They didn't dare to move in fear of being killed by the zombie goddess. The zombie goddess couldn't help but cover her mouth as she giggled seductively again. He. You didn't expect this, did you? The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind it. Do you think you're the oriole? Don't joke around. This is all a ruse to lure you out. You're not allowed to do as you please on Changbai Mountain. And Lin thought for a moment before deciding that it was time to reveal himself as a hero. As for who was the mantis and who was the oriole, he could only feel sorry for the zombie goddess, who told her to encounter a sword immortal like him. He was just about to do something when a burst of hearty laughter erupted from the distance. Ha ha! Zombie goddess of Changbai Mountain, today is the day you die. A beam of pure golden light fell from the sky and landed on the zombie goddess's black mist, disintegrating it into nothingness like the scorching sun that melted ice and snow. Boom! A Taoist priest with thick eyebrows and large eyes landed on the ground, causing it to tremor and crack. The zombie goddess's expression shifted drastically. It's you, the #1 cultivator in the Hua Nation, sect leader Yu Mu of the Shangqing sect. Oh, I didn't think I would be so famous. To think that such a beautiful woman would remember me. A faint smile appeared on Yu Mu's face, as if he was very smug, but his eyes were extremely clear and calm. And Lin was dumbstruck once again. F***CK. Are you done? Who's the oriole here? Was this a serial drama? The two forces kept inviting their bosses, and then the cycle would repeat endlessly. Ha! How could I not recognize the first return to Void Stage mighty figure on Earth? I really didn't think that you would come out of seclusion to deal with a weak woman like me. The zombie goddess brows furrowed slightly at the sight of Yu Mu, and a pitiable expression appeared on her face. Yu Mu harumphed coldly. Corpse goddess, you've committed all sorts of evil deeds on Changbai Mountain, so you'll have to pay for what you've done. It's time for you to pay the price. An aggrieved expression appeared on the zombie goddess' face. I've never done anything evil. Ever since I attained the soul formation stage, I've always been conscientious, and I've always followed the basic principle of not attacking unless I'm attacked. But if someone attacks me, I'll only kill. I've always been a good zombie, and I've always been very reasonable. Yu Mu's lips twitched, and he didn't waste any more time talking as he tossed a talisman toward the zombie goddess. Take this. Golden Light Destruction Talisman. Rumble. The golden light shot forth like a sharp sword toward the zombie goddess. The zombie goddess's slender arms danced through the air as a series of ice barriers materialized around her. Boom, boom, boom. The golden light tore through the ice barriers with unstoppable force, sending shards of ice flying through the air before crashing into the zombie goddess's smooth and flat lower abdomen. PFFF. The zombie goddess threw up a mouthful of blue blood as her body tumbled to the ground. Even though she was already a soul formation final stage powerful being, the disparity between return to void stage and soul formation stage cultivators was simply too vast, and there was no chance of her winning. Not only that, but even escape would be an extravagant hope. She had set up a flawless trap, but she didn't think that she would attract the attention of the most powerful being on Earth. Her heart was in complete despair. It only took an instant for her to transform from an oriole into a praying mantis. I'm going to kill you! The zombie goddess roared with rage as a dark blue aura revolved around her body. The power of extreme frost swept through the surroundings, and the forest within a radius of over a kilometer was instantly covered in a layer of frost. The closer one got to her, the more bone-chilling the power of extreme frost became. However, Yu Mu was like a scorching cauldron as he made his way toward the zombie goddess. The power of extreme frost was completely unable to affect him in the slightest. The dark blue aura in the zombie goddess's hands materialized into a spear, which she hurtled toward Yu Mu. Yu Mu's expression remained unchanged as golden light enshrouded both of his hands, and he gripped the spear with his bare hands. Boom! The spear was imbued with the power to freeze all things, and it knocked Yu Mu back several dozen meters before being crushed by the golden light. Ding dong! Detected that host has come into contact with the extreme frosty energy. now assigning the following mission. Absorb the zombie goddess's extreme frosty energy and activate the god cultivation method. The method of absorption is mouth-to-mouth energy absorption. Mission success. Receive stage 1 of the god cultivation method. Mission failure. Become a frozen man for 1 year. Note, this mission cannot be rejected, and the time limit is 10 minutes. God cultivation methods are extremely rare, so treasure them. And Lin was ecstatic. It's here. The mission was finally here. He was initially worried that the mission would change and that he wouldn't be able to trigger it again. However, after the zombie goddess unleashed her most powerful attack, the mission was still triggered. This was a rare opportunity, and he couldn't afford to miss it. Yumu made a hand seal, and a golden talisman sword appeared in his hand, which exuded the might of the sun. This is my final attack. No one on this earth has ever been able to block my evil-vanquishing true yang sword. You've lived up to your cultivation base by dying to this attack. A tragic smile appeared on the zombie goddess' face. Stop spouting nonsense. If you want to kill me, then come at me. She knew that she wouldn't be able to live for much longer. She knew this would be the outcome from the moment she met Yumu. Die! Yumu's body transformed into a dazzling streak of golden light as his sword swept through the air. The power of the evil-vanquishing true yang sword was extremely terrifying, and even the space around it began to warp and tremble. The zombie goddess took a deep breath. This was the final moment of her life. However, right at this moment, a white figure suddenly appeared before her, shielding her from the zombie goddess. The zombie goddess' eyes widened in shock. Before she had a chance to figure out what was going on, the white-robed man's fist collided with the golden talisman sword. Boom! An earth-shattering boom erupted. Right before Yumu's astonished eyes, his invincible, evil-vanquishing true yang sword was shattered by a single punch. Golden light, imbued with the power of the earth, surged forth, and Yumu's body was knocked flying for over 100 meters. He stared at the man who had suddenly appeared, and a certain memory surfaced in his mind as an expression of incredulity appeared on his face. It's you. The zombie goddess was also dumbstruck. This human cultivator was so powerful to be able to knock Yumu back with a single punch. Thank you for saving me, Senior. The zombie goddess bowed with gratitude toward the man's back as she spoke in a soft and seductive voice. She didn't know who this person was, but it was a fact that she had been saved. It was the man in front of her who had saved her life from certain death. Just this alone was enough to make her feel extremely grateful. The zombie goddess was ecstatic. In the end, she was still the one who had played the role of the Oriole. Chapter 976. The zombie goddess stared up at the white-robed man with reverence in her eyes. She had also noticed the change in Yumu's expression, and she could tell from Yumu's astonished expression that this man was extremely powerful. She had found herself a powerful backer. At this moment, the white-robed man turned around. He was so majestic and imposing. He had a handsome face and a pair of calm eyes. There seemed to be waves rising up, causing people's hearts to palpitate. But why did this face feel a little familiar? The zombie goddess faltered slightly before her mouth gaped open in shock. You're... Before she had a chance to finish her sentence, the man pounced forward and pounced on her. His powerful hands locked onto her wrists as his body pressed down on top of her voluptuous breasts. The zombie goddess' eyes widened as her breathing accelerated. You're that man from 2 years ago. History was always eerily similar. 2 years ago, and Lin had pounced on her just like that. Now, history was repeating itself. Even their positions were exactly the same. Yumu, Jiang Xiangyang, and Sun Han's eyes widened as they stared at the scenes unfolding before their eyes. The zombie goddess was a little dazed by the sudden pounce. In particular, the familiar scene and the familiar movements made her feel as if she were dreaming. Her hands were locked, her long, slender legs were braced, and her chest rose and fell against the man's chest with her rapid breathing. 2 years ago, this man had been her enemy. 2 years later, this man had become much more powerful and had become her savior. The only thing that hadn't changed was that the man had pounced onto her. What are you doing? The zombie goddess' lips trembled as she spoke, and she exhaled a cool breath that lingered around in Lin's nostrils. And Lin had already made up his mind as he looked at the sexy woman beneath him. He lowered his head and inched closer to the woman's slightly pale lips. And then he kissed her deeply. Don't. The zombie goddess's mouth was sealed, and Lin activated his energy absorption technique. A cool and soft sensation traveled through his body, along with a hint of sweetness and coldness. After a while, an extremely pure lunar cold chi began to flow into his body and spread throughout his meridians. A smooth and unobstructed feeling filled his entire body. It was a very strange and refreshing feeling. The zombie goddess's beautiful eyes widened as she responded in a daze. The three people from the Shangqing sect stared blankly at the scene in front of them. Was there something wrong with the development of the plot? It was one thing for Enlin to forcefully interfere, but why did he kiss her right in front of her? Did they think they didn't exist? The zombie goddess' glazed eyes gradually regained clarity, and she tried to struggle free with her arms. She twisted her slender waist and tried to bend her long, pristine white legs to push Enlin's body away, but she was unable to do so. Her phoenix eyes were covered with a layer of mist, and it was hard to tell what kind of emotion she was feeling. Time seemed to pass very quickly, but it also seemed to be a very long time. Her lips parted, and Lin rose to his feet and pulled the dumbstruck zombie goddess to her feet with an awkward expression on his face. A faint blush appeared on the zombie goddess's face, and she gritted her teeth as her seductive body trembled slightly. And Lin felt like he should give the zombie goddess an explanation, and he scratched his head. I accidentally tripped over you just then, and due to gravity, I accidentally kissed you again. Zombie goddess, Yumu Jiang Xiangyang, and Sun Han, would you believe that? Even a ghost wouldn't believe that. Even zombies would go on a rampage if they heard that. I'm really sorry, but I saved your life, so we're even now. And Lin bit the bullet and continued. The zombie goddess repressed her urge to go on a rampage and reminded herself over and over again that this man was her savior and that she couldn't do anything rash. If they're going to fight, they had to wait until she broke through to the return to void stage. She forced a smile with difficulty. Thank you for saving my life. I'll never forget it. Yumu finally couldn't help but ask, Mr. Lin, why did you kiss? Tui, why did you save her? And Lin cleared his throat. The zombie goddess has reached such a high cultivation base, so we can make her swear a Dao heart vow to never harm humans again and protect the Changbai mountain ranges. Wouldn't that be perfect? He couldn't bring himself to be so heartless, so he proposed a compromise. The zombie goddess had already recovered from the forced kiss, and she looked at Enlin with seductive eyes as she spoke in a seductive voice. You've already kissed me, so why are you making such an unreasonable request? You have to take responsibility. If she didn't harm humans, then her rate of cultivation would slow down significantly, so she naturally couldn't bear to do that. Oh, I get what you mean. And Lin looked at the zombie goddess before drawing his evil-slaying sword expressionlessly, upon which a terrifying intent soared into the sky. The zombie goddess' legs gave out from under her at the sight of Lin's terrifying aura. Yumu and the others also drew a sharp intake of breath. The aura being displayed by Lin was even more powerful than his own. Don't be rash. I'll listen to you, the zombie goddess immediately said. So what if her rate of cultivation was slow? Her life was more important than anything else. She had just barely managed to survive, so she couldn't allow herself to be slain just like that. Thus, the zombie goddess swore a Dao heart vow. She swore to never harm humans again and to protect the Changbai mountain ranges. After the zombie goddess swore a Dao heart vow, and then Lin stepped forward to vouch for her, Yumu finally decided to spare her. He pulled Lin off to the side before speaking in a meaningful and heartfelt voice. Mr. Lin, I didn't think you would have such a unique taste. The zombie goddess is beautiful, but you have to control yourself. With such a hot body, she's definitely a juicer. And Lin's expression darkened. I already told you, I accidentally tripped and fell. That's why I kissed you. Yes, I know. Yumu nodded with a mischievous smile. Jiang Xiangyang, and Sun Han also looked at Enlin with a knowing expression on their faces. Enlin, F*CK? If he had known this would happen, he would have dragged the zombie goddess into the forest before pouncing on her. There was no way he could explain this now. He couldn't just say that kissing the zombie goddess would give him a cultivation method, right? No one would believe that. After taking care of a big problem, Yu Mu and the others began to leave. Only Enlin and the zombie goddess remained. The zombie goddess wrapped her arms around her perky breasts, and there was a rare hint of timidity in her pitch-black eyes. She was extremely powerful, and no matter who she faced, she would always appear in front of everyone with the cold and cruel face of a queen. She wasn't afraid of anyone seeing her upper body. This was because those people would be intimidated by her aura. On top of that, almost all of the people who had seen her were dead. However, Enlin was different. Enlin had just forcefully kissed her, but she couldn't do anything about it. Even her queenly aura was completely useless in the face of Enlin. She was extremely dejected, but at the same time, she was also struck by a different kind of emotion. She really wanted to cover up her sexy body with a piece of cloth. After all, she was only wearing a grass skirt. What if this guy was tempted by her? Chapter 977. For some reason, the zombie goddess' heart rate was also accelerating. It was the middle of the night. A man and a woman were alone in the middle of a desolate mountain. Enlin turned toward the zombie goddess, who seemed to have sensed Enlin's scorching gaze, and a blush appeared on her face as she lowered her head in embarrassment. Enlin. What was wrong with the zombie goddess? He could still recall the seductive smile and flirtatious words the zombie goddess had given him after he had failed to kiss her. Why was she behaving like a shy little girl now? This didn't make sense. Ahem. If there's nothing else, then I'll be going now. Enlin felt like it was best not to linger here for too long in order to avoid any misunderstandings. The zombie goddess turned toward Enlin with a hint of surprise on her face, clearly not expecting this to be the first thing Enlin would say. She moved her sparkling and tender lips and said, "Okay." Enlin nodded and was just about to fly away on his brick. The woman's voice sounded again. What's your name, little brother?" "My name isn't Lin," Enlin replied. He didn't feel like there was any need to hide this information. "My name is Tang Yin," the zombie goddess replied. Enlin's brows furrowed. "Huh? Isn't your name the zombie goddess?" "Tang Yin. Is your name Soul Formation Stage Cultivator?" Tang Yin couldn't help but grumble. "Air." Enlin came to his senses upon hearing this. The zombie goddess was only a title given to those who had reached a certain cultivation base. "Mr. Enlin, I thank you once again for saving my life." Tang Yin bowed slightly, and the two snowy peaks on her chest also swayed slightly as she extended a curtsy. Enlin averted his gaze with a nonchalant expression. "Fellow Taoist Tang Yin, I hope you can repent and cultivate diligently. We'll meet again if fate allows it." He hurriedly flew into the air atop his black brick as he spoke. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control himself if he flew any slower. Tang Yin stood on the spot, quietly watching the man disappear into the distance. The moonlight gradually dimmed, and the surroundings once again became silent. It was as lonely as before, with only one or two wolf howls echoing in the forest. After Enlin left Changbai Mountain, he turned his attention to his system. He had already completed the first stage of the Yin God cultivation method, and he had gained a deeper understanding of the power of the Yin element. His mastery of the spatial congealing spell technique and water clone spell technique had also been further enhanced. He had also learned a derivative cultivation method, the extreme frost vortex, which had extremely powerful sealing and restrictive abilities. Enlin currently had the Yin-Yang 5 elemental wind and lightning cultivation technique. Only the metal cultivation technique was left. Other than that, the divine elixir had already been reserved, and the problem of funds had already been solved. All that was left was a divine artifact. After this period of hard work, he had unknowingly completed more than half of his mission to break through to the return to void stage, and it could be said that he could already see the dawn of success. "If I work harder, I might be able to break through to the return to void stage this year," Enlin said, full of fighting spirit. The black brick streaked through the sky at an extremely fast speed. He was quite intrigued by the speed of the black brick and the speed of the commercial plane in the sky, and they flew side by side for a while. And Lin flew through the clouds with the commercial plane, and he could even see the faces of the people looking out of the windows. Of course, none of them were able to detect his concealment spell technique. Thus, he flew alongside the commercial plane in a leisurely manner. This was a very peculiar feeling. One had to realize that 4 years ago, he would have never imagined that he would experience something like this. It really was a dreamlike scene, and Lin sighed with emotion. He was very glad that he had chosen to cultivate to become an immortal. Only then would he have the opportunity to see the wider world and live a different life. After flying alongside the commercial plane for an hour, he finally reluctantly flew toward the South Pole. It was nighttime at the South Pole, and the boundless night sky was intertwined with a vast expanse of white snow and ice, creating a vast and tranquil scene. He found Tina and Dubai, and he leaned against Dubai's soft back as they admired the dazzling aurora in the night sky together. Giant and Lin, these auroras are so beautiful. Why would auroras appear at the north and south poles of Earth? Tina was both astonished and curious, and Lin was very glad that he hadn't returned his high school physics textbook to his teacher, and he explained, "The auroras on Earth are optical phenomena caused by the ionization of molecules or atoms in the upper atmosphere by the flow of charged particles from the Earth's magnetosphere or the sun." Tina blinked her bright eyes, and she seemed to understand what Lin was saying. "Wow, Giant and Lin is so awesome." And Lin nodded with satisfaction. It was a pleasant surprise for him to receive a wave of admiration points using his knowledge of Earth. "I'm still a little curious about what Big Brother and did at Changbai Mountain Woof." Dubai suddenly interjected, "And Lin, I went to Changbai Mountain to take care of some business. I wanted to learn a cultivation method." And Lin replied with a serious expression. Dubai's nostrils flared, and a sly smile appeared on his face. "You wanted to learn a cultivation method from the zombie goddess? I get it. It's like learning English with a foreign girl." And Lin slapped Dubai's head with an enraged expression. "Say one more F*** word, and I'll smash your head in." Dubai wore an aggrieved expression. He had the courage to do something like that, but he didn't allow his dog to talk about it. And Lin, Dubai, and Tina chatted idly, and a hint of liveliness appeared on the silent and lonely Earth. They stayed at the South Pole for a few days, and they ate a few polar bear mutant beasts when they had nothing to do. They even discovered a spirit-nurturing stage ice-wing bird in the depths of the glaciers, which was a pleasant surprise. And Lin had never eaten such a creature before, and he excitedly caught the ice-wing bird and cooked it into a soup. The soup was delicious and smooth, and the meat had a peculiar crispiness to it, which made Lin, Dubai, and Tina extremely happy. After that, they returned to the Huan Nation to cultivate on the North Mist Mountain. This was more of an attempt by Dubai to break through to the soul formation stage. And Lin didn't need to cultivate normally. His priority was to nurture a spirit for the evil-slaying sword and obtain a divine tool as soon as possible. As for Tina, she focused more on observing heaven and earth, and absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to improve herself was not very useful anymore. In Tina's words, accompanying her to experience some interesting things and witnessing some unique scenery was a form of cultivation. And Lin spent his days on the North Mist Mountain practicing his swordsmanship with Ming Chuan, as well as teaching him some spell techniques and sword techniques. As for how to improve his cultivation base, there was really nothing he could teach him. Even so, and Ming Chuan's cultivation base was still progressing at a rapid rate. And Lin's observation of the 5 elements, yin, yang, wind, lightning, and the Tao of the sword was far superior to that of the average mighty figure. It could even be said that he was the most proficient cultivator on Earth in these areas. Under his wholehearted guidance, and Ming Chuan's cultivation speed really did improve by leaps and bounds. And Lin also gave Ming Chuan many spirit pills and spirit fruits to assist in his cultivation. The days passed by in a mundane, yet fulfilling manner. Not long after that, Xin Yuan Cheng came to Lin's voice transmission talisman with good news. Classmate Lin, The teleportation passageway to the celestial court has been repaired. Chapter 978. After receiving the news, Lin and the others began to bid farewell to their family and friends on Earth. Wait for my news, Dad. The next time we meet, I'll take you to the Tai Chu continent. Lin gave the man before him a hug with a smile on his face. He had already decided to take his father to the Tai Chu continent prior to graduation. The cultivation environment on the Tai Chu continent was much better than on Earth. Furthermore, Ming Chuan would be able to cultivate at the 4-9 Immortal Sect with all of the Pavilion Lords assisting him. So it was obvious which side was better. Don't forget about me, fake Taoist priest. Tian Lingling raised her little hand as a reminder. Lin patted Tian Lingling's head with a smile. You have to work hard in your cultivation. It would be embarrassing if you couldn't even pass our sect's entrance trial. TCH. Tian Lingling rolled her eyes with displeasure. You're looking down on the most exceptional prodigy of the younger generation on Earth. Lin nodded upon hearing this. That's right, Tian Lingling. What followed was a flurry of little fists pummeling his chest. Lin had attained initial success in his body of the war god, so Tian Lingling's pummeling didn't even tickle him. In the end, Tian Lingling rubbed her little red hands together to end their bickering. After a series of farewells, Lin, Xianyuan Cheng, Dabai, and Tina made their way toward a teleportation point in the Celestial Court and departed from Earth. The first thing Lin did after returning to the United University of Cultivation was to find Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan reported to Lin with excitement on her face how much they had earned during the past few days. The average price of each dish was over 200,000 spirit stones per day, and the net profit was over 200,000 spirit stones per day. Lin was quite elated to hear this. His total net worth had reached 66 million spirit stones, and he was getting closer and closer to his target of 100 million. Su Xiaolan seemed to have fallen in love with cooking and volunteered to take on the responsibility of cooking. According to her, she seemed to have fallen in love with the special effect of the moment she became a dish. Lin didn't mind. If Xiaolan liked to do this, then let her do it. Life returned to normal, and Lin once again immersed himself in his studies. This made the homeroom teacher, Flying Sword God, extremely happy. It was not easy for his class to have two top-notch geniuses, but they were both obsessed with cooking and did not attend class. What was going on? Now, the whole school knew that Lin and Su Xiaolan had made a name for themselves among the immortals of the Celestial Court by cooking. It was a good thing, but she still felt that something was wrong. It was not until Lin returned to class that Flying Sword God realized what was wrong. Lin and Su Xiaolan had become the role models for all of the students in the United University of Cultivation to look up to. Now that these role models were going to become full-time cooks, the students couldn't possibly follow suit, could they? The style was completely skewed. After Lin returned to class, everything became much clearer. Look, even the bad asterisk SS and Lin is working hard to cultivate. What reason do you have to not work hard? Some teachers encouraged the students in the class. All of the students' fighting spirit was reignited upon hearing this, and they all followed the example of student Lin and worked hard to cultivate. Lin was once at the bottom of the rankings, but his results during the midterm exams were off the charts. He scored full marks for his pill refinement class, Immortal Spells class, Combat class, Tao Realm class, and Lin nodded with an indifferent expression. Not bad. Before he knew it, half a month had passed. A piece of news from the 4-9 Immortal Sect disrupted his peaceful life. Lin, bad news. Our Spirit Stone Mine scouting team has engaged in a conflict with the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas in the territory of the Flying Ball tribe. Lu Qianwan's voice sounded. Lin had some recollection of the Flying Ball tribe. They were a medium-sized tribe on the Tai Chu continent that resided to the east of the Kingdom of the 9 States. It's just a conflict. What's there to be surprised about? Can't we just deal with it in the spirit of civilization, harmony, and freedom? Lin spoke with a nonchalant expression. But Xiao Zhe killed one of the Dragon King's sons. Lu Qianhuan exclaimed in a panicked voice. Gasp! Lin drew a sharp intake of breath. Which Dragon King? Lu Qianhuan replied with a resigned expression. Which Dragon King? The Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. And Lin's expression darkened upon hearing this. What exactly happened? Hurry up and tell me in detail. Lu Qianhuan gave a detailed explanation. Our Spirit Stone Mine scouting team discovered a large mine in a secluded area of the Flying Ball Tribe's territory, but news of this was accidentally leaked. The Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas scouting team rushed over and claimed that they were the ones who discovered the mine first. They even tried to chase our scouting team away and forcibly mark the mine. Our scouting team will immediately report this matter to the sect. When Xiaoza heard this news, he rushed over angrily. A large mine is priceless, so how could they allow it to be stolen? The Dragon King's second son, Ao Shiyu, also rushed over. He had a dispute with Xiao Zhe over the ownership of the mine, and they got into a fight. But who knew that Ao Shiyu was really too weak, and Xiaoza accidentally smacked him to death. And Lin, what the F***CK accidentally killed the Dragon King's second son? He was a return to Void Stage mighty figure after all. How could he be so weak? And Lin felt like he needed to organize his thoughts. The Dragon King had a dozen or so children, but that didn't mean his children weren't important. Ao Shuyu's aptitude wasn't very high, and he was only able to progress to the Return to Void stage due to sheer luck. He had remained at the Return to Void initial stage ever since. Xiao Zhe accidentally killed Ao Shuyu, so this theory was valid. And Lin believed it, but the Dragon King wouldn't believe it. Even if the Dragon King believed that this was an accident, and Lin knew them well enough to not let the matter rest. It was very common for conflict to result in casualties, but if the casualty was a person of high status, then things wouldn't be so simple, even if Lin's side was in the right. Little Na, little Tian, come with me. And Lin led Tina and Shui Zhantian toward the location of the incident. Senior student, did the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas make any demands? And Lin asked in an urgent voice. Lu Qianhuan replied, they made very outrageous demands. The Dragon King of the Eastern Seas said that seeing as our sect has the support of the Celestial Court, we won't have to pay with our lives. However, we will make Xiao Zhe a slave of the Dragon Court forever. On top of that, they want our sect to withdraw from the dispute over the Flying Ball Tribe's mine. Withdraw from the dispute? There's no dispute at all. They're clearly trying to steal our mine. Lu Qianhuan's voice was tinged with rage and displeasure. And Lin's expression completely darkened upon hearing this. Make Xiao Zhe a slave of the Dragon Court? Don't they know whose disciple Xiao Zhe is? Chapter 979. The power of the divine Tao unique to a return to void final stage mighty figure soared into the heavens, forming an extremely fearsome lightning tornado that roared with rage. He had already made up his mind. If worst came to worst, he would just kill Xiaoza and the others on the spot. In any case, he had the reputation of avenging his son, so it was only right and proper for him to do so. Even the Heavenly Court would not interfere. Aside from Dragon King Ao Meng and the two men beside him, all of his Dragon Tribe followers collapsed to the ground in the blink of an eye. Boom! All the 4-9 Immortal Sect could do was yield and submit to his judgment. What? Ao Meng's expression faltered slightly. Beside the middle-aged man were 2 Dragon Tribe men with powerful auras, as well as a group of powerful Dragon Tribe followers. And Lin praised, "You're still as fit as a fiddle." Boom! Golden ripples swept through heaven and earth, as if a paramount god were looking down upon all the ants in the world. And Lin admitted his identity. He knew that if he didn't have the power to back up his claim, then there would be no point in negotiating. As such, he might as well flex his muscles first. I'm not worthy. Let me see who gave you the courage to talk to me like this. Ao Meng had never been mocked like this before, and he made a grabbing motion toward the black brick in the sky. A disdainful expression appeared on Ao Meng's face. You killed my son, and the Heavenly Court wouldn't say a word about it. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and sign a slave contract with me. I don't have the patience to waste any more time with you. Aside from Ao Meng, one of the other 2 was the Dragon Tribe mighty figure he had encountered in the ancient Tai Chu realm. His name was Ao Mingyu, and he was at the return to void initial stage. As for the other one, he had never seen him before, and his aura was extremely subdued. Lin gritted his teeth, and the veins on his forehead bulged upon seeing this. Ao Meng was so domineering that he didn't even want to talk anymore. You want to talk with your fists? You want to intimidate me with your power? Boom! The sound of the collision was like a thunderclap. If you think I don't have the right to negotiate with you, then let me show you whether I have the right or not. Let me show you whether or not I have the right to do so. A golden light flashed through Lin's eyes as a paramount monarch might erupted forth. The two sides faced each other at the bottom of the stone wall. Xiaoze, you killed my big brother. My father has already shown you mercy and spared your life for the sake of the Celestial Court. Why are you still resisting? A man from the dragon tribe who was holding a jade fan asked sternly. All right, then he was going to show Ao Meng exactly who is suppressing who. That's right, I am the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal sect, Lin. Lin was not someone who could be easily manipulated. Xiaoze stumbled back a few steps before stabilizing himself, and he turned to Ao Meng with a pale expression. If you want to kill me, come at me. What kind of hero is bullying a soul formation stage cultivator? Where is your dignity as a mighty figure of the dragon race? You're Lin. Azure dragon scales appeared on Ao Meng's arms. The domineering and terrifying black sword light extended for tens of miles, slicing all the mountains in its path in half. Master, Xiaoze looked at Lin with reddened eyes. Lin looked at the man before him, who had been knocked back several hundred meters by his sword strike. However, he had almost no injuries on his body. He looked around at the dragon tribe cultivators present to find that there were only 3 return to void stage mighty figures, including Ao Meng. Lin replied in a loud voice, Don't be in such a hurry. Let's analyze everything one by one so that we can see who's right and who's wrong. Ao Meng's lips twitched as a cold smile appeared on his face. I hope you understand what it means to avenge my son. If you want Xiaoze to live, then you have to convince him to become my slave and evacuate all of these people from this mine. Whoosh! You want to drag all of the 4-9 Immortal sect down with you? Do you think you're worthy? What young hero? Ao Meng glanced at Lin with a fake smile. However, a white light flashed, and Lin disappeared on the spot. Within the territory of the Flying Ball tribe on the Taichu continent, an extremely terrifying dragon might erupted from heaven and earth as golden ripples of paramount might proliferated outward with a middle-aged man at the epicenter. Everyone felt as if they were facing a primordial true dragon, and they were all struck by a sense of asphyxiation. Right at this moment of shock, a white light suddenly appeared before him, and a man wielding a black sword with black mist revolving around his entire body slashed down upon him. The Dragon Court was more powerful than the 4-9 Immortal sect. Ao Meng, do you have any shame? It was clearly you who wanted to take the mine by force, which caused the dispute, but now you are blaming all the fault on us. Is this how the ruler of the Dragon Court does things? Lu Qianhuan raised her brows slightly as she held her sword in her hand, and she roared at the man standing nearby. Xiaoze instantly appeared before Lu Qianhuan before thrusting his palms toward the man. The middle-aged man from the dragon tribe at the very front said unhurriedly, If you still refuse, then don't blame me for being ruthless. I'll kill you right here and now as a sacrifice to my son's soul in heaven. Shut up. You don't have the right to negotiate with me. It's a fact that Xiaoze killed my son, and he only has 2 choices. The first is to become my slave, and the second is to pay with his life. I'll give you 10 seconds to consider. A terrifying aura erupted from Ao Meng's body again. I, Xiaoze, am only Master's underling. You want me to be your Dragon Court's slave forever? Dream on. Xiaoze chuckled coldly. In contrast, Ao Meng knew that they were the ones in the wrong here. If they were to analyze the situation carefully, there could be other variables that could arise, so they might as well use force from the get-go. Xiaoze stood in front of the dozen or so outer sect disciples in a black robe, and he looked at the white-robed, golden-eyed man with dragon horns and a solemn expression on his face. He had just used his arms to defend himself against Enlin's full-force attack. Even though he hadn't injured Ao Meng, Enlin's lips still curled up into a faint smile, as if he didn't take this dragon tribe king seriously at all. "You want my disciple to become your slave? Do you think you're worthy?" Enlin raised his head, and a hint of rage and coldness appeared in his eyes. After that, he would take all of their belongings, as well as the Spirit Stone mine. In that case, it wouldn't be a big loss for him to lose a useless son. Ha ha ha! Ao Meng burst into laughter from his rage. "I'm not worthy? Fine, then all of you shall die here for me." In the distance, a handsome man flew toward them atop his brick before looking down at Ao Meng from above. Within a mountain, a certain steep stone wall had already been smashed open, revealing a translucent green crystal that exuded extremely powerful vital energy fluctuations. "Dragon King Ao Meng of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas? Is that all you've got? You have no right to interrupt when I'm talking." Ao Meng harumphed coldly as an extremely terrifying aura materialized before hurtling toward Lu Qinhuan. Boom! Space began to twist and warp in that instant. Chapter 980. Ao Meng's expression shifted slightly as he sensed the divine might unleashed by Enlin. "Are you refusing to let Xiao Zhe become your slave?" His voice was like rumbling thunder, causing the space around him to tremor slightly. Enlin drew his evil-slaying sword and took a deep breath. "I've already told you, you're not worthy of being my slave." She didn't reason with him and only gave him two choices. Did she really think that he was a weakling who could be bullied by others? "Master, I'll fight with you." A determined expression appeared on Xiao Zhe's face as he stood beside Enlin. Not only that, but Tina and Shuizhantian had also arrived beside Enlin, clearly planning to fight alongside Enlin. "Hee, do you really think a few Return to Void stage mighty figures are a match for me? I'll show you just how big of a difference there is between a Return to Void stage mighty figure who has mastered the power of the divine Tao and one who hasn't. Whether it's 1 or 10, it doesn't make any difference to me." Ao Meng's expression darkened, and over 100 bolts of purple lightning suddenly shot forth from the lightning tornado around him, descending upon Enlin with extremely fearsome power of the divine Tao, like lightning snakes in the sky. He had unleashed his power of the divine Tao from the get-go, clearly trying to cripple Enlin right here and now. Enlin's expression remained unchanged in the face of over 100 bolts of lightning, and he clasped his hands behind his back, upon which the purple lightning suddenly changed directions to strike Ao Meng with even greater power. "What?" Ao Meng's expression shifted, but he reacted extremely quickly to materialize a barrier in front of him. Divine Lightning Barrier. The Divine Lightning Barrier then crashed into Ao Meng's face. Boom, boom, boom. After the barrier exploded, over 100 bolts of purple lightning imbued with the power of the divine Tao fell upon his body. Ao Meng's blood-curdling cries and enraged roars reverberated throughout heaven and earth. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings were dumbstruck upon seeing this. They were waiting to see the Dragon King pummel the 4-9 immortal sect leader, but why was their big boss already screaming in agony? Was there such a massive disparity between their powers? All of the 4-9 immortal sect cultivators were extremely elated upon seeing this, and all of them erupted into raucous applause. Xiao Zhe and the others didn't even bother to look at Ao Meng's lightning technique, and they already knew the result. After the lightning dissipated, Ao Meng panted heavily. His flowing white robe was in tatters, and there were several charred marks all over his body, clearly indicating that he was in a terrible state. "Hee, I've forgotten about the Lord of Transcendence. If you can control divine lightning, then you should be able to control my lightning as well. In that case, if I don't use lightning, what can you do to me?" Ao Meng suddenly let loose an almighty roar, and the area within a radius of several dozen kilometers was instantly enshrouded by white mist. A series of sinister water dragons with powerful auras began to appear, circling in the air before menacing toward Enlin. "Protect the disciples of the 4-9 immortal sect. You guys don't need to do anything for now. And Lin instructed his beast pets and disciple. But Master, our opponent is a return to void final stage Dragon King. Xiaoze was a little nervous. Do you still not trust me? And Lin turned to look at him with a confident smile. Xiaoze opened his mouth, but he didn't say anything in the end. There are still 2 Dragon Tribe mighty figures who haven't attacked yet. Remember to be on your guard against them, and Lin cautioned. As for the Dragon King of the East Sea, I can take him on by myself. Roar. Several blue water dragons over 10,000 feet in length let loose enraged roars before pouncing toward Lin with devastating force. And Lin stepped forward at the same time and leaped into the air, taking the initiative to charge toward the water dragons. His body was extremely minuscule in the face of the water dragons, and he was instantly engulfed by the boundless power of water, transforming heaven and earth into a vast expanse of ocean. You're overestimating yourself. A smile appeared on Ao Meng's face as he abruptly clapped his hands together. The blue water dragons began to tear viciously into Lin's body, and each and every one of their attacks was imbued with Ao Meng's observation of the divine Tao. Even a return to void, final stage mighty figure would be wounded by attacks of this caliber. A series of tiny gashes had also been inflicted on Lin's body of the war god, but his expression remained unchanged. The blood within his body began to churn, and his skin had taken on a reddish-golden color. Ao Meng felt like something was amiss. All of a sudden, a burst of light as bright as the sun erupted forth within Lin at the center. Boom! An extremely terrifying explosion erupted within the vast expanse of ocean. Boundless flames erupted in the form of a ring of clouds. The water dragons let loose an anguished wail as they were shattered by the terrifying shock waves and scorching temperatures before being vaporized into nothingness. This is... Ao Meng's pupils contracted slightly as he stared at the scenes unfolding before his eyes in astonishment. And Lin's entire body had taken on a crimson golden color as divine flames and holy flames burned all over his body. The scorching temperatures made the air churn and space twist and warp. However, that wasn't the point. The point was that Lin's aura had become even more terrifying, and Lin opened his mouth slightly before exhaling a mouthful of scorching air. He had unleashed the core spell technique of the number 1 powerful being of the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation, the Eternal Sun God, Fire God mode. He had unleashed 100% of the flame power within his body and converted it into kinetic energy and heat energy to become a true flaming war god. Now, let me see just how much power I can unleash after combining my body with 6 divine flames and 1 holy flame. A faint smile appeared on Lin's face as his body abruptly tore through the air. A sonic boom erupted for over a kilometer before crashing down upon Ao Meng like a flaming meteor. Ao Meng thrust a palm toward the plummeting Lin, and his massive blue palm clenched slightly, as if he were trying to grasp the flaming meteor in his hand. And Lin unleashed a fist toward the massive blue palm. Boom! The resulting shock waves swept forth for several kilometers. Flames exploded, and the terrifying force of the collision caved in the massive blue palm. Immediately afterward, right before Ao Meng's incredulous eyes, a massive hole had been punched into the palm that he had thrust forth. In the next instant, Lin had already appeared before him, and the terrifying, scorching temperatures from Lin's fist made Ao Meng feel as if his skin had been incinerated by boundless flames. Dragon King of the East Sea? Lin's eyes lit up, and his fist crackled as it hurtled toward Ao Meng's chest at an extremely fast speed. Bam! Lin had unleashed his fire god mode to convert all of the flame power within his body into physical power. The space in its wake crumbled as it crashed heavily into Ao Meng's chest. Crack! The sound of bones caving in and cracking erupted. Ao Meng's eyes widened, and he threw up another mouthful of blood as his body flew back like a cannonball. Father! Ao Mingyu finally couldn't help but let loose a cry upon seeing this. He was just about to do something when three extremely powerful auras locked onto him. If you want to fight, then don't blame me for being merciless. Xiaozhe looked at Ao Mingyu with an indifferent expression. I hope you're more resilient than the second prince, Ao Shuyu. Don't let me accidentally slap you to death again. Ao Mingyu. Never would anyone have thought that Ao Meng would still be blasted flying by Lin, even after giving up on using lightning. A return to void, final stage mighty figure like him was unable to take a single punch from Lin. After unleashing that punch, Lin tore through space again and pounced toward Ao Meng. Roar! It's over for you. Ao Meng had clearly been enraged, and azure dragon scales appeared all over his body. His hands transformed into dragon claws, and he abruptly stopped his retreat before pouncing toward Lin. Perfect timing. Lin chortled with glee. He was enshrouded by divine flames and holy flames, and he was like a paramount flame monarch as he strode through the sea of flames. His arm pulsed as his fist crashed down upon Ao Meng with even more terrifying power. Ao Meng's dragon claws tore through Lin's fist. Boom! The shockwaves from the collision instantly reduced everything within a radius of over 1 kilometer to dust. Ao Meng felt an indescribably terrifying power spread from his arm to his entire body. He let loose a roar, and his feet fused with the earth to defend against the overwhelming power. The earth behind him caved in from the shockwaves from the punch. A second later, all of the power disappeared. Ao Meng didn't even have a chance to heave a sigh of relief before Lin's second punch fell. Again, Ao Meng was enraged, and he chose to take Lin's punch head-on. His claws left a dazzling azure trail in the air as they tore through the air toward Lin's chest at an even faster speed. His claws tore through the flames around his body before striking Lin's body, upon which a sharp, screeching sound erupted. A 5-color divine light swirled around Lin's body, and his return to void final stage attack was kept at bay. Ao Meng's heart jolted with shock. He didn't think that Lin's body would be so terrifying. Break through! He roared as the power of the divine Tao in his claws rose to the very peak. Splat! Blood splattered through the air as 6 gashes appeared on Lin's body. At the same time, Ao Meng's chest caved in again, and he felt as if all of his internal organs had been pulverized. Ao Meng threw up a mouthful of blood as his body flew into the distance again. Lin was also stumbling back relentlessly. The power of the divine Tao was wreaking havoc on his chest, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. However, he didn't appear to be scared in the slightest. Instead, he laughed heartily before pouncing toward Ao Meng again. A chill ran down Ao Meng's spine as he looked at the severely wounded Lin pouncing toward him like a madman. Chapter 981. In his Fire God mode, Lin's speed and power were both enhanced to an extremely terrifying degree. The 6 divine flames and the holy vermilion flame were no joke. Even a return to void, final stage mighty figure like Ao Meng would find it difficult to keep up with their attacks after they fused as one. Ao Meng's dragon claws clashed relentlessly with Lin's fists, and with each clash, everything around him was reduced to dust. He had initially wanted to use his power of water to restrict Lin's movements, but Lin's body was like a miniature sun, scorching everything in its path. After clashing several dozen times, both of them were riddled with wounds of various sizes. They appeared to be evenly matched, but Lin seemed to be on drugs, and he was getting more and more pumped up as the battle progressed. In contrast, Ao Meng was struggling a lot more. All of the Dragon Tribe subordinates were stunned by the scenes unfolding before their eyes. They knew that Lin was extremely powerful, but they didn't think that he would be able to hold his own against the top dog of the Dragon Court. No, wait, he was even able to suppress their boss. Roar! Ao Meng let loose an enraged roar as Azure Divine symbols appeared in his claws, which he swatted violently toward Lin. You forced me to do this. I don't care who you are, you're going to die here. Ao Meng's aura soared explosively again. Ao Mingyu's expression shifted drastically upon seeing this. Father's going to use that technique. He's still so irrational. A resigned smile appeared on another dragon tribe man's face. Using that spell technique will result in severe repercussions. I didn't think Father would be forced into such a desperate situation. And Lin's expression remained unchanged upon hearing A.O. Meng's enraged roar, and he tore through space before unleashing another fist toward A.O. Meng. So what if I force you to do this? Can you get any more bad *SS than this? His fist was extremely powerful, and even before it had come into contact with A.O. Meng, the space around it was already beginning to crack open. A crazed expression appeared on A.O. Meng's face, and his dragon claws transformed into azure afterimages that instantly locked onto Lin's fist. Lin felt as if his fist had punched into cotton. He didn't hit anything solid at all. He turned his gaze to his fist, and his pupils shrank slightly. His fist was tightly gripped by the green dragon claw. Cracks appeared on the surface of the dragon claw, and blood flowed out, forming a protective membrane around the dragon claw. His fist landed on the protective membrane, and then the fist force strangely disappeared. How is that possible? And Lin's expression changed. How could such a good power disappear just like that? A cruel yet smug smile appeared on A.O. Meng's face. Blood sacrifice black hole? Do you want to know about it? His gaze was cold, and his dragon claw gripped Lin's fist tightly, making it impossible for Lin to break free. Moreover, his strength was becoming more and more terrifying, and it was obvious that he intended to directly crush the fist. And Lin's left fist punched out in the next instant. A.O. Meng was extremely fast, and blood also sprayed forth from his other dragon claw to block Lin's terrifying palm strike. It was supposed to be an earth-shattering collision, but it was as if it had fallen into a bottomless abyss. Not even an echo was produced, and Lin was dumbstruck for a moment. This was the first time he had encountered such a peculiar power. Based on his previous battles, A.O. Meng would have been knocked back several hundred meters at the very least after taking that attack. However, it was as if his fist had struck thin air, and he didn't feel as if his fist had struck flesh at all. Right at this moment, an excruciating pain shot through both his fists, and his bones began to creak under the immense pressure. I'm going to cripple your arms now. Let's see how you're going to fight me then. A dazzling divine light erupted from A.O. Meng's claws as a cruel smile appeared on his face. And Lin took a deep breath before suddenly opening his mouth. A.O. Meng. All of a sudden, terrifying heat burst forth as a golden light converged in his mouth. An extremely terrifying pillar of golden energy erupted from Lin's mouth before striking A.O. Meng's face head-on. The golden pillar of energy was boundless, and it tore through the earth and mountains behind him like a river of flames that extended for close to 10 kilometers, incinerating all things in its path. This was the fat combustion cannon that he had learned from Ishi. It could convert fat into heat energy, which could then be unleashed through his mouth. After combining this spell technique with his Fire God mode, its power was elevated to a whole new level. A.O. Meng had caught Lin off guard and taken the attack head-on, so how could he possibly feel good about it? And Lin felt as if the power binding his hands had been loosened, and he immediately struggled free from A.O. Meng's grasp before retreating in a frenzy. The energy dissipated. A.O. Meng's face was charred black, and he exhaled a mouthful of white smoke with a blank expression. Was this Lin even a King human? This was the first time he had ever seen a human who could fire a cannon from his mouth, and most importantly, it was so powerful. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings widened their eyes in shock and horror as they stared at the human male. Their impression of Lin had been refreshed once again. It was one thing for the dragon tribe to be able to unleash energy, but what the hell was going on with a human? Furthermore, his energy was countless times more terrifying than theirs. After retreating for over a kilometer, Lin shook his slightly numb hands as he looked at A.O. Meng with a grave expression. A.O. Meng's blood sacrifice black hole spell technique was still quite a threat to him. If it weren't for the fact that he had some special techniques to retaliate, that attack would have been enough to put him in a dire situation. Very well, you've successfully enraged me. Ao Ming's golden eyes were bloodshot with rage. And Lin pursed his lips. He was naturally going to be angry after being pummeled. So why was he spouting nonsense? An earth-shattering dragon roar suddenly erupted. White mist erupted from Ao Ming's body, following which an azure dragon over 10,000 feet in length leaped out from the white mist before appearing between heaven and earth. Lightning instantly flashed, thunder crashed, mountains and rivers lost their luster, and massive waves surged in all directions. The dragon court of the eastern seas had finally revealed its true form. Mortal, I'll only need 1 minute to finish you off. The azure dragon's eyes were cold and emotionless as its dragon might swept toward Lin. And Lin waved a hand through the air, and a crimson arrow pierced through space before hurtling toward the azure dragon's head with extreme heat. The azure dragon didn't take evasive measures. Instead, he merely chuckled coldly. A faint stream of blood suddenly appeared on his glabella, and the crimson arrow instantly disappeared upon striking the layer of blood. Hee, don't waste your energy. My blood sacrifice black hole technique can transform any part of my body into a black hole that can engulf energy. You won't even be able to harm me. The azure dragon chuckled coldly as it circled around in the air before pouncing toward Lin like an azure divine sword. And Lin deactivated his fire god mode. He had no choice as he had overexerted himself. However, his aura did not weaken in the slightest. Instead, faint black mist revolved around his body, making his aura even more fearsome. Origin energy of the netherworld. Second stage wind spirit. Wind sword. Kuan Peng travel. And Lin's speed was like a bolt of lightning after being boosted by the threefold speed enhancements. He reached Ao Ming's back before pulling out a massive bronze ball. It's your turn, large water ball. Chapter 982. Ao Ming was given a fright by Lin's speed. However, a disdainful expression soon appeared on his face. So what if you're fast? All of your attacks will be engulfed by me. And Lin's expression didn't change much upon hearing this. As long as it wasn't the power of laws, all types of power had a limit, and the blood-sacrificial black hole was no exception. Otherwise, if Ao Ming were to enshroud his entire body in blood, wouldn't he be invincible? And Lin landed on Ao Ming's back, and blood was already seeping out from Ao Ming's body, enshrouding his entire body to form an indestructible energy engulfing barrier. At the same time, a series of water blades imbued with the power of the divine Tao tore through the air toward Lin. And Lin ignored these attacks and activated his vital energy to crush the bronze ball onto Ao Ming's back. At the same time, he made a hand seal. Large water ball, crush him. Boom. And Lin was blasted flying by the blue water blades, and a massive gash appeared on his body of the war god. However, his eyes were extremely bright as he stared at the large water ball with anticipation in his eyes. Ha! You want to crush me with a ball like this? I'm going to die of laughter. I'm the Dragon King of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. Ao Ming chortled with glee as he maneuvered his body through the air. The ball on his back was completely ineffective, and Lin faltered slightly upon seeing this. Could it be that his large water ball wasn't powerful enough? Just as he was hesitating, Ao Ming's expression suddenly shifted, and his body shuddered violently. Ao Ming had only just opened his mouth to speak when an extremely terrifying power descended, as if it were a mountain crushing down upon all things in this world. How? His body was crushed into a U shape, and he let loose an anguished wail as he plummeted from the sky. Boom! The azure dragon crashed into the ground, causing the ground to tremor violently. There was a faint blue liquid flowing over the surface of the bronze ball on his back, and boundless gravitational force crashed down upon Ao Ming, as if it were imbued with the power of an entire planet. Help! How? Ao Ming howled with anguish as the blood-sacrificial black hole on his body was crushed by the ball, upon which the weight of the ball crushed down upon his body in a frenzy. And Lin was relieved to see this. The large water ball had absorbed the weight of hundreds of millions of tons of water. With such a huge weight gathered in such a small ball, the pressure produced was unimaginable. For example, if a bullet weighed a ton and was pressed against the palm of his hand, even if he didn't shoot it from the muzzle, the terrifying pressure brought by the gravity would be enough to penetrate his palm. The power of the large water ball crushed through A.O. Meng's defenses before crushing his back, upon which the sound of his bones cracking could be heard. How? A.O. Meng let loose another blood-curdling cry. Father! A.O. Mingyu finally couldn't help but fly toward A.O. Meng. It was also in that instant that Xiao Zhe appeared in front of A.O. Mingyu. He transformed into a black dragon and swatted A.O. Mingyu away like a rubber ball. Don't disturb my master's battle. The black dragon roared angrily and spoke in a majestic manner. Brother, don't wait any longer. Father is about to die. A.O. Mingyu yelled. Sigh. A light sigh suddenly sounded. A dragon tribe male with a cold expression and a pair of sharp eyes gripped the hilt of his sword as he made his way toward A.O. Meng, covering several hundred meters with each and every step. Xiao Zhe immediately pounced toward the male. Piss off. After he used spatial shackles on the Dragon Clan man, he swung his tail again, carrying a monstrous amount of power as he swung it towards the man. However, the male instantly disappeared on the spot and evaded Xiao Zhe's attack. In the next instant, he appeared several hundred meters away and was even closer to Enlin. He had mastered the spatial skipping technique that countless return to void stage mighty figures struggled to master. Monstrous sword intent surged forth, sweeping up the wind and clouds in the sky. Shui Zhantian was just about to pounce toward the male when Tina grabbed onto his fur. What are you doing, little Na? Why are you grabbing onto me at a time like this? Shui Zhantian yelled. Trust in Jian and Lin. Let's not give ourselves away. Tina spoke with a grave expression. How can you say that? Shui Zhantian refused to accept this. Tina's emerald eyes reflected the figure of the oncoming male. Because he's a lot more powerful than Dragon King A.O. Meng. Shui Zhantian's eyes widened. He looked at Tina, who wore a solemn expression, and then at the male whose aura was becoming more and more terrifying as he made his way toward Enlin. Big Brother and is peerless and invincible, so a mere crippled dragon is naturally a piece of cake for him. There's no need for us to do anything. Shui Zhantian's snowy white body swayed as he provided his analysis. Tina and Lin's eyes narrowed slightly at the sight of the oncoming male. Even with his powerful divine sense, he was unable to ascertain this male's cultivation base. However, now that the male had unleashed his aura and was no longer concealing his cultivation base, and Lin discovered that he was also a return to void final stage mighty figure, and from the aura he was exuding, he was even more powerful than A.O. Meng. A.O. Meng was crushed to the ground by the large water ball, and he was almost unable to breathe. A smile appeared on his face at the sight of the oncoming male, and he glanced at Enlin out of the corner of his eye with a hint of satisfaction at having successfully exacted his revenge. Who are you? Enlin asked. The fifth son of the Dragon King, A.O. Qingyu, the male replied in a cold voice. He looked at Enlin with an extremely sharp expression, and if a weaker cultivator were to be stared at like this, they would probably be unable to even stand. Enlin nodded. He was very familiar with this name. This was the most prodigious and most powerful being in the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas, and he was said to be the Dragon Tribe mighty figure most likely to succeed in the Dao integration stage. I'm only going to unleash one sword strike. After that, I won't attack again. A.O. Qingyu raised his head with an expression of arrogance and confidence, and the aura of a top-tier powerful being began to emanate from his body. However, this sword strike may take your life. And Lin's heart jolted with shock. What an astonishing display of power. This man was not to be underestimated. He clasped his hands behind his back with a faint smile on his face. Then, please make your move. Please make sure to use your most powerful technique so that I don't get a kick out of this. A.O. Qingyu's brows furrowed. How could there be such an arrogant person in this world? As a powerful being, he couldn't be bothered to attack a soul formation stage cultivator. However, this soul formation stage cultivator was able to beat him into a pulp so there was a reason for him to attack. He didn't think that he would be looked down upon as well. Ah, then prepare to receive my attack. Ao Qingyu didn't like to waste words, and he immediately drew his sword. All of a sudden, the entire heaven and earth was filled with boundless sword intent. The peerless sword intent seemed to be threatening to tear the heavens apart. The power of Ao Qingyu's sword Dao True intent instantly enshrouded an area with a radius of over 50 kilometers. His power of a divine Dao was a sword intent domain, and he could slice through everything here. Ao Qingyu looked at Enlin before unleashing the most powerful sword strike of his life. Chapter 983. Ao Qingyu had sprung into action. Furthermore, he had unleashed his most powerful attack from the get-go. Enlin looked at the devastating sword projection, and he had no doubt that Ao Qingyu was trying to kill him. Wherever the sword light passed, everything was cut in half. Even the void was cut in half, forming a dislocation. Within Ao Qingyu's divine Dao, sword intent domain, his sword was the sharpest weapon that could slice through anything in this world. Enlin could feel the peerlessly sharp sword projection, but he had nowhere to run as this entire heaven and earth had already become his slaughterhouse. If he were to take this attack head-on, even his body of the war god would be sliced in half. It was truly powerful. This was probably the most terrifying attack that he had ever endured. Ao Meng was already chortling with glee as he turned toward Enlin, eagerly anticipating the scene of Enlin being sliced in half. All of the Dragon Tribe powerful beings were also looking on with excitement in their eyes. They knew that no one present would be able to defend against Ao Qingyu's full-force attack. Enlin felt like he wouldn't be able to defend against this attack. However, he wasn't going to take this attack head-on. He silently pulled out a mirror from his storage ring. Vermilion Bird Mirror. That's right, he wasn't afraid of Ao Qingyu being bad *SS. He was afraid that he wasn't bad *SS. This was why Enlin was flexing and encouraging him to use his most powerful attack. The more bad *SS it was, the better. Only then would he be able to seal the deal. Enlin was very satisfied with Ao Qingyu's sword projection. The sword projection that was powerful enough to slice through everything in this world fell before Enlin, and the dazzling sword projection became the only color between heaven and earth. This was an extremely pure and sharp power. In that instant, Enlin felt as if his body had been sliced open even before the sword projection had come into contact with his body. The sword projection then fell upon the Vermilion Bird Mirror before suddenly changing directions. The sword projection that was powerful enough to slice through everything in this world struck Ao Qingyu's body in the blink of an eye. Ao Qingyu's attack could slice through everything, so that naturally included his own body. His eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. The terrifying sword intent gradually dissipated. The world was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Some people even rubbed their eyes, suspecting that they were seeing things. A trail of blood suddenly appeared on Ao Qingyu's waist, and it slowly spread to his entire white robe. All of the Dragon Tribe powerful beings and the 4-9 Immortal Sect powerful beings widened their eyes in shock as they stared at the scenes unfolding before their eyes. How could this be? How could this be? Blood trickled down the corners of Ao Qingyu's lips as he stared blankly at Enlin. To be able to block his sword slash, he could reluctantly accept it. But to directly reflect his move, what the F***CK? I'm not convinced. This move doesn't count. Again, Ao Qingyu gritted his teeth and raised the long sword in his hand, just as he was about to attack Enlin again. Suddenly, his expression changed, and blood began to spurt out from his waist. His upper body slowly slid down and separated from his lower body. He looked extremely miserable. Yes, his body had been sliced into two by his own sword light. Brother, Ao Mingyu yelled as he charged toward the man without any regard for his own safety. My son! Ao Ming roared with grief and anguish. Ao Qingyu's body fell to the ground with a dazed expression, and his teeth chattered, as if he still couldn't accept the fact that he had been defeated by Enlin. Ao Mingyu rushed over to Ao Qingyu's side and reconnected the two halves of Ao Qingyu's body. He then pulled out an immortal pill and fed it to Ao Qingyu before unleashing a healing spell technique. It was all thanks to the insane life force of a return to void final stage mighty figure that Ao Qingyu was able to survive even though he had lost the ability to fight. Of course, whether or not he could survive depended on whether the 4-9 Immortal Sect was willing to let him go. All of the other Dragon Court powerful beings lost all of their battle intent upon seeing this, and some of them even began to tremble uncontrollably. Defeated. The most powerful being of our Dragon Court was defeated by Enlin. Furthermore, he was defeated by his own technique without being able to put up any resistance. This is way too terrifying. How could Enlin be so powerful? No, I don't believe this. How could our Dragon Court be crushed by a human like this? Impossible. I refuse to believe this. Some of the Dragon Tribe powerful beings were unwilling to accept this reality, and they were on the brink of mental breakdown. Elsewhere, all of the 4-9 Immortal Sect disciples and Pavilion Lords erupted into raucous cheers. Tina heaved a light sigh of relief, and the golden light around her hands slowly disappeared as a vibrant smile appeared on her face. Tears of joy welled up in Xiao Zhe's eyes. He knew what kind of battle Enlin had endured and what kind of risk he had taken in order to save him. Almost everyone turned to look at the man in front of them. This was a man with many wounds on his body, but he was still standing like a war god. Enlin landed on Ao Meng's head and leaned against his dragon horn with a mysterious smile on his face. Dragon King Ao Meng of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas, do you think I have the right to discuss this matter with you now? Ao Meng panted heavily. The large water ball was crushing him with all his might, and he was completely unable to do anything else. He then turned to his son, who had been sliced in half, and an expression of humiliation and indignation appeared on his face. No matter how indignant he was, how unwilling he was, he had been defeated in this battle. He had been utterly defeated. He had deployed 2 return to void final stage mighty figures, but he had still lost. Never would he have thought that the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas, one of the most powerful forces on the Taichu continent, would be crushed by a new sect. That's right, this was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. He was planning to crush them in the most brutal way possible, and if they didn't comply, he would just kill them. However, he was the one who had his head stomped on. He was being stomped on in every sense of the word. Enlin stood on Ao Meng's head with a triumphant smile on his face. Oi, Ao Meng, have you been beaten senseless? Say something. Ao Meng's body trembled with rage, but his tone changed. Very well, I admit defeat this time. If you want to reason with me, then I'll reason with you. A satisfied smile finally appeared on Enlin's face. As expected, if you wanted someone to listen to you, all you had to do was beat them up. Beat him until he was convinced. Beat him until he was willing to listen to reason. All of the 4-9 Immortal Sect disciples trembled with excitement upon hearing Ao Meng's concession. They stared at the figure standing on the dragon's head with scorching light in their eyes. The sun shone upon Enlin's body, and it was as if his entire body was glowing with a divine light. These were all outer sect disciples, but at this moment, all of them were filled with a strong sense of pride. They were proud to be part of the 4-9 Immortal Sect. In the face of the Dragon Court, which was extremely powerful and intimidating, Enlin stepped forward and defeated 2 return to void final stage mighty figures in a row. This was their sect leader. This was the sect leader who had crushed the entire Dragon Court to the point where they couldn't even raise their heads. Chapter 984. Enlin didn't want to go too far now that Ao Meng had admitted defeat. At the very least, he wasn't going to step on the Dragon King's head anymore. Enlin leaped down from the dragon's head before rising into the air atop his brick to meet the Dragon King's gaze. Looking at the king of the Dragon Court being completely suppressed, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Today was truly a good day. All right, let's start from the beginning. Enlin looked at Ao Meng with a faint smile. Let's start with who discovered the Spirit Stone mine first. Ao Meng's expression shifted slightly as he turned toward the Dragon Tribe mine exploration team. and Lin issued a command. 4-9 Immortal Sect Exploration Team, Dragon Tribe Exploration Team, get over here. The 4-9 Immortal Sect Outer Sect disciples immediately made their way toward Enlin upon hearing this. The Dragon Tribe cultivators were a little reluctant, but they still obediently made their way over to Enlin's side in the face of Enlin's tyrannical might. Tell me, who discovered this mine first? The 4-9 Immortal Sect member goes first, and Lin spoke with a serious expression. Of course we discovered it first. A female disciple stood up. Her eyes were red, and it was obvious that she had cried once before. She said loudly, after we discovered the mine, we immediately reported it to the sect. Then, we searched the nearby area for reserves. However, during this process, we were discovered by a flying ball tribe hunter. We didn't pay much attention to it at the time, but not long after that, the Dragon Tribe exploration team arrived and shamelessly announced that they were the ones who discovered the mine first. It was most likely that flying ball tribe hunter who leaked the information to the Dragon Tribe exploration team. The female disciple was quite enraged as she glowered at the Dragon Tribe cultivators. What happened to that hunter? And Lin asked. He must have been killed by them. The female disciple gritted her teeth. And Lin turned to the Dragon Tribe exploration team with an intimidating expression. The dozen or so Dragon Clan beings felt their hearts tremble, but they tried their best to maintain their composure. A middle-aged man from the dragon race walked forward and said, We discovered this spirit stone mine before all of you, but we forgot to leave a mark on the spirit stone mine. We wanted to wait for the second Prince Ao Shuyu to arrive before we started mining. I didn't expect that the second prince would be killed by your xiaos at the moment he got here. Oh. As for the flying ball tribe hunters that you're talking about, you have to have evidence to back up your accusations. The man's eyes reddened as he spoke, and tears began to well up in the corners of his eyes, giving him a look of rage and indignation. And Lin nodded. You're right. You need evidence for everything. Then you said that you came to the mine first. Where's the proof? The Dragon Tribe man was taken aback. He did not expect that Enlin would directly bypass the topic of the hunter. He glanced at the mineral vein not far away and said in an aggrieved tone, We forgot to leave a mark before. When we came here again, we wanted to leave a mark, but we were stopped by your people. They had initially planned to say that the words of the Dragon Core of the Eastern Seas were evidence, but they clearly couldn't say that now. Otherwise, they would be slapped to death. And Lin turned toward the disciples of his sect. Do we have evidence to prove that the Spirit Stone mine belongs to us? The female disciple nodded. We left marks on many parts of the mine. She made a hand seal as she spoke, and a white light suddenly flashed from a few spots on the green mountain over a kilometer away, thereby forming the 4-9 Immortal Sect's mark. And Lin turned toward Ao Meng and the other Dragon Tribe cultivators with a smile. What I'm trying to say is that you need evidence for everything, right? That's what you said before. The current situation is that the 4-9 Immortal Sect has evidence to prove that they came here first, but you don't. The 4-9 Immortal Sect has evidence to prove that they came here first, but you don't. The mine belongs to the 4-9 Immortal Sect. Do you have any objections? Bullsh asterisk T if you don't have proof. And Lin roared before he even had a chance to finish his sentence. All of the Dragon Tribe cultivators shuddered in fear upon hearing this, and none of them dared to utter another word. They had thought that they would be able to erase the 4-9 Immortal Sect's mark with ease and replace it with theirs. Who would have thought that things would turn out like this? All of the Dragon Tribe cultivators turned to Ao Meng for help, and Lin also turned to Ao Meng with a smile. Dragon Court Master Ao Meng, do you have any objections to the ownership of the mine? Ao Meng's eyes burned with rage, but he could only squeeze out a few words after a few seconds. No objections. But my son, let's take things one step at a time. And Lin interjected. He turned to Tina. Did you record the entire process? Tina made an okay hand gesture, clearly indicating that she was recording the entire process. Ao Meng's lips twitched. The Dragon Court clearly couldn't bully the weak, so they had no choice but to admit to the matter. However, the next thing was that the 4-9 Immortal Sect was definitely in the wrong. Very good. The Dragon King of the EC has also admitted that the Spirit Stone Mine belongs to the 4-9 Immortal Sect. Lin looked at Ao Ming before speaking again. Then, why did the Dragon Court send people here? The surrounding atmosphere suddenly became quiet, and Lin's eyes turned cold as he revealed his true intentions. It's very easy to deduce that you're trying to take the Spirit Stone Mine by force while the main forces of our sect are away. According to the rules of the cultivation world, anyone who tries to take someone else's property by force will be beaten to death. In fact, it could even be said that they deserved it. And Lin's powerful voice reverberated throughout heaven and earth. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings' eyes widened as they stared blankly at Enlin. Even though they knew that the situation was developing in a direction that wasn't in their favor, they knew that they probably wouldn't be able to capture Xiao Zhe. Perhaps the 4-9 Immortal Sect would compensate them with something, and the Dragon King would let them off the hook. However, never would they have thought that Enlin would say that the Dragon King's second prince deserved it. B. Astor starred. That's my second brother. He's the second prince of the Dragon King. How dare you say that? Ao Mingyu glowered at Lin with unquenchable rage, and his fists clenched as his aura erupted forth. That's my son. You killed my son, and not only are you not apologizing, you're saying that he deserved it? Ao Ming's voice was also filled with hatred as he glowered at Enlin. Enlin clasped his hands behind his back and looked at Ao Ming with a tranquil expression. The 4-9 Immortal Sect's motto is equality. What is equality? It's about reason. Only by setting aside all social classes and reasoning can we achieve equality. Your Dragon Court came to our 4-9 Immortal Sect to steal our sect's property first. If that's the case, then the 4-9 Immortal Sect would be justified in killing all of you, let alone killing your son by accident. Even the 4-9 Immortal Sect disciples' eyes widened as they stared at the peerlessly domineering man standing on the black brick. Lin really dared to say such things. Ao Qingyu had just recovered from his injuries, and his blood churned as he threw up another mouthful of blood upon hearing this. Ao Ming's entire body trembled with rage, and he wanted nothing more than to crush the man's head in his hands. And Lin looked at Ao Ming expressionlessly. If the 4-9 Immortal Sect had been a bit weaker, then perhaps the Dragon Court would have completely annihilated them. The Dragon Court was already being so ruthless, so why would the 4-9 Immortal Sect hold back? They had already fought, and they had won, so why should they bow down and compromise? That wasn't in Lin's style. An extremely powerful force could twist the truth and rob weaker forces of their resources. However, the 4-9 Immortal Sect was not weak. In fact, they were even more powerful than the Dragon Court. And Lin, have you thought about the consequences of your words? Ao Ming spoke in a cold voice. Are you threatening me? And Lin silently drew his evil slaying sword, and the inky black blade of the sword seemed to be able to engulf the sun. Consequences. I've even thought about the consequences of executing all of you on the spot. A faint smile appeared on his face as he looked at Ao Ming. The Spirit Stone Mine is ours, but you're here to steal from me. What do you think the Celestial Court would do if I killed all of you here? And Lin, don't you dare. Ao Mingyu roared with rage. Boom. In that instant, a sense of impending doom engulfed Ao Ming's entire body. His killing intent was so potent that even the space around him had become viscous. And Lin was like a god of slaughter as he slowly approached Ao Ming. Ao Ming's body trembled. He knew that Lin was serious. And Lin really did intend to kill him. Chapter 985. Ao Mingyu was just about to let loose a torrent of abuse, but he didn't have the courage to do so in the end at the sight of Lin's expression. If he really swore at him, Lin might really chop him to pieces. His second brother was already dead, and his father couldn't lose him as well. An extremely terrifying sword projection erupted from Lin's sword, and a series of inky black cracks began to appear in the space around him. Ao Ming looked on as Lin made his way toward him. He was completely powerless against Lin's attacks after being suppressed by the large water ball. Of the three powerful beings of the Dragon Court, one was severely wounded, one was being suppressed, and the last one was very weak. If Enlin really wanted to kill them, there was no way they would be able to escape. Would Enlin choose to yield or concede just because he was wary of the Dragon Court? In the past, Ao Ming felt that Enlin would do something like that. But now, he couldn't make up his mind. What if Enlin was a lunatic? Killing all of the powerful beings of the Dragon Court might result in very severe consequences. But what if Enlin really was a lunatic and wanted to kill all of them for a quick and satisfying death? He only had one life. What kind of punishment would Enlin receive after this was none of his business. If he died, he would have nothing left. He hadn't even completed his mission of reviving the Dragon Court yet. So how could he die just like that? Ao Ming definitely couldn't allow that to happen. He looked at Enlin, who had raised his long sword, and yelled, "Mr. Enlin, the Dragon Court is indeed at fault for the Spirit Stone Mine incident, but you went too far in the death of my son. Both of us are at fault, so why don't we each take a step back and let the world be spared?" Enlin's footsteps faltered, and his killing intent slowly dissipated. All of the Dragon Tribe powerful beings stared at Ao Ming in astonishment. Ao Ming's words clearly indicated that he was conceding, and it was a humiliating concession. All of the Dragon Tribe powerful beings stared at the scenes unfolding before their eyes with a dazed expression, unable to come to their senses for a long time. How could you just let the second prince go? Why has our Dragon Court ever been humiliated like this? Dragon King, please reconsider. Ao Ming's face convulsed upon hearing this. If it didn't back down now, they were all going to die here. For some reason, he felt that the man in front of him would definitely do it. Where there is life, there is hope. He could settle this score with the 4-9 Immortal Sect after he got back. I made up my mind. Our Dragon Court was in the wrong first. Is Sect Leader Enlin satisfied with how I've handled this matter? Ao Ming forced a smile onto his face as he looked at the seemingly harmless young man before him. Just when everyone thought that Enlin was going to agree, Enlin shook his head. Dragon King Ao Ming, I didn't want to see things develop to this point. Seeing as you've suggested that we all take a step back and let bygones be bygones, I hope that all of you can swear Dao heart vows that you won't cause trouble for the members of our 4-9 Immortal Sect in the future, Enlin said. Everyone present was dumbfounded. They actually wanted the Dragon King and the other mighty figures to make an oath on their Taoist heart. Roar! Enlin, don't push your luck. Ao Ming let loose an enraged roar, and just the sound waves alone transformed into gale-force winds that swept for close to 10 kilometers. One could imagine just how furious he was. You don't agree? Then I don't want to release the tiger back into the mountains. How about we eliminate him here and now? Enlin silently pulled out his evil-slaying sword as he spoke. I agree. I agree. Ao Ming's teeth chattered with rage. When had he ever been humiliated like this? As the supreme leader of the Dragon Court, he had always been the one to judge others. When had he ever had to listen to someone else's judgment? But now, Ao Ming felt like he was in a nightmare. However, he had to endure this for the sake of the Dragon Court. Ao Ming immediately swore a Dao heart vow that he wouldn't cause trouble for the 4-9 Immortal Sect in the future. When the rest of the Dragon Clan saw that their leader had already sworn an oath, they didn't feel any burden in their hearts and followed suit. However, the most powerful being of the Dragon Court, Ao Qingyu, refused to bow his head. He stared at Enlin with a stubborn expression. Kill me. I, Ao Qingyu, will never bow my head to you, even if I have to die and have my tendons pulled out and my bones pulled out. Enlin turned to Ao Qingyu with a hint of surprise on his face, clearly not expecting him to be such a tough nut to crack. You'd better not let me go. Otherwise, I'll definitely find you again and avenge my brother. Ao Qingyu threatened in a cold voice. You're right. Enlin nodded in agreement with Ao Qingyu's words. He silently pulled out his sword before making his way toward Ao Qingyu. Ao Qingyu, Enlin, what do you want to do to my brother? If you hurt our Dragon Tribe again, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Ao Mingyu immediately positioned himself in front of Ao Qingyu with an enraged expression. Piss off. Enlin instantly appeared before Ao Mingyu and kicked him flying. Ao Mingyu let loose a wail of anguish as his body quickly flew back. Never would he have thought that Enlin would be so powerful that he would be able to easily knock him flying with a single attack. The inky black, evil-slaying sword was pressed against Ao Qingyu's neck in the next instant. Enlin could end Ao Qingyu's life with a single thought. You only have to say, "Kill me," one more time, and I'll fulfill your wish. Enlin held the evil-slaying sword in his hand as he spoke in an extremely cold voice. Ao Mingyu's expression shifted drastically upon seeing this, and he spoke in a panicked voice, "Brother, your life is at stake. Let's give in just this once." Ao Meng was also burning with anxiety. "My son, you can't do that. You are the future of our dragon court and bear the heavy responsibility of reviving the dragon court. You can't lose your life here." All of the other dragon tribe cultivators also chimed in. "Fifth Prince, the dragon court can't do without you. A man knows when to yield. That's not embarrassing at all. Fifth Prince, please take a step back for the sake of the dragon court's future." "No, I, Ao Qingyu, have never bowed to anyone in my life." Ao Qingyu spoke in an extremely determined voice. The pleading and persuasion continued. Enlin couldn't be bothered to waste any more time, and his evil-slaying sword began to slice toward the man's neck. Ao Qingyu's voice suddenly sounded, "However, for the sake of the dragon court's future, I am willing to sacrifice my most precious dignity. That's right, I am willing to give up everything in exchange for the dragon court's future." He suddenly made a vow with tears streaming down his face. All of the dragon tribe cultivators were touched by this, and tears also began to flow from their eyes. Enlin, "Wah, the fifth prince is too noble. He has never bowed to anyone before, but he is willing to live for the dragon court this time. There's a way to live that is even more painful than death. The fifth prince is such a proud man, but he is willing to do something like this for the dragon court. I am extremely ashamed. As expected of the most powerful being that represents the future of our dragon court." Ao Qingyu's vow was completed amid a flurry of praise and tears. He looked at Enlin and raised his chin as arrogant as a swan. His eyes were filled with despair, as if he had done something that was more painful than death. "Enlin, is this enough for me?" he asked with a righteous expression, as if he were about to sacrifice himself for the sake of the world. Enlin, what else can Enlin say? He silently sheathed his long sword, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Everyone had surrendered, so why was Ao Qingyu's surrender so touching? Chapter 986. All of the Dragon Court powerful beings surrendered and swore Tao heart vows that they would never seek trouble with the 4-9 immortal sect again. Enlin kept his promise and let them go. He had initially wanted to scam the Dragon Tribe for psychological damages and war reparations. After all, he was a little short on cash. However, the Dragon Tribe might explode if he did that, so he refrained from doing so. When the time came for him to truly dominate all of the Dragon Court powerful beings, he would wreak havoc in the Dragon Court again. Things would definitely be very interesting when that time came, and Lin didn't have to worry about any retaliation from the Dragon Court powerful beings. If they dared to violate their Tao heart vows, their Tao foundations would crumble and they would lose all of their cultivation bases. "Rise!" And Lin waved a hand, and a large water ball that was trapping Ao Meng floated into the sky before shrinking in size before obediently retracting back into his storage ring. Ao Meng let loose an elated roar after regaining his freedom. A powerful dragon roar erupted for over 50 kilometers. He then continued to lie on the ground. "Father!" Ao Mingyu was a little perplexed. Ao Meng reverted back to his human form. His clothes were in tatters, and his body was riddled with wounds, giving him an extremely pitiful appearance. "Father!" Ao Mingyu blinked with confusion in his eyes. "Stupid C***. Are you blind? Help me up. My waist has been crushed by that terrifying ball, and I can't stand up." Ao Meng transmitted his voice with rage. Ao Mingyu came to his senses and hurriedly helped Ao Meng up. Ao Meng turned to Enlin with a dignified expression. "Don't think that's the end of this matter. You're going to regret everything you've done today." Lin waved a hand with a smile. Have a safe journey, Dragon King Ao Meng. He had seen many people like this who ran away with their tails between their legs, then threw out threats to get back at them. As such, he didn't feel like there was anything to be concerned about. The Dragon Court wasn't worth him being so wary of. Ao Meng's chest constricted with rage at the sight of Lin's despicable smile, but there was nothing he could do. He harumphed coldly before returning to the Dragon Court on his son's back. All the living beings of the dragon race followed behind dejectedly, not daring to say a word. All of the 4-9 Immortal Sect disciples erupted into cheers of excitement upon seeing the dragon tribe cultivators escape from this place. All of them ran over to Lin and gathered around him. They didn't think that the people from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas would leave this place in such a manner. He had accidentally killed the Dragon King's son. How terrifying was that? They had been forced to hand over Xiao Zhe, but the Dragon Tribe powerful beings had decided to let bygones be bygones and swear oaths to never invade the 4-9 Immortal Sect again. This kind of earth-shattering change in the situation was unimaginable to anyone in the past. But Lin did it. Their sect master did it. And Lin looked at Tina and asked, "Have you recorded everything?" "There's no problem, Giant Lin. Please take a look." Tina handed the photographic crystal to Lin with a wide grin before adding, "Giant Lin's performance just then was so badass." "Of course. Who do you think I am?" A smug smile appeared on Lin's face. "Master, thank you." Xiaozhe made his way toward Lin with tears streaming down his face. "Why are you being so polite? I'm your master." A warm smile appeared on Lin's face as he patted Xiaozhe's head. Xiaozhe spread open his arms and gave Lin a tight hug. "Wow, thank you so much, master. Thank you for fighting for me. I thought I was going to be taken away by the Dragon Court." This was the first time that Lin had been embraced by Xiaozhe in such an emotional manner, and he was a little embarrassed. However, this was quite a good feeling. There was also an indescribable sense of accomplishment amidst the warmth. "Little Xiao, what have you learned from this?" Lin asked in a meaningful and heartfelt voice. "Don't sigh about the coldness of this world, but where is true love?" Xiaozhe asked hesitantly. After all, his master's image in his heart was becoming more and more lofty. Lin's lips twitched slightly as he replied with a serious expression, "That's not the point. Or rather, that's not the point." "Then what is the point?" Xiaozhe turned to Lin with a perplexed expression, and Lin looked at Xiaozhe before enunciating each word clearly. "The point is power. Power," Xiaozhe murmured. "That's right. Why would the Dragon Court make such a huge concession? It's all because they can't defeat us. Think about it. What would happen to us if we couldn't defeat the Dragon Court? Being treated as a slave is already a light punishment for you. In the worst-case scenario, we could all die here. That's the death of our son. Even if Ao Meng really did do that, the Celestial Court most likely wouldn't be able to severely punish them. In this world, the weak have no right to speak. If you want to reason with others, you have to see if they're willing to reason with you. At times like this, your fists are everything. Only by becoming more powerful than your opponents will you be able to avoid being bullied." And Lin's words reverberated in Xiao Zhe's mind, and he fell into deep thought. That's right, this world appeared to be civilized and orderly, but it was still a world where power spoke. What if this mine had been discovered by the Celestial Court's search team? The Dragon Court's search team probably wouldn't even have the courage to show up here, let alone the conflict that would ensue. At the end of the day, the root of all of this was still weakness. Xiao Zhe suddenly raised his head with a determined expression. "Master, I'll definitely work hard to break through to the Return to Void final stage. I won't allow anyone to look down on our 4-9 Immortal Sect." A gratified smile appeared on Lin's face. This was a promising young man. Lu Qianhuan also made her way over, and her purple eyes lit up as she praised. "And Lin, your power and presence have really improved recently. Even I'm starting to see you in a different light. That's only natural." And Lin's expression remained calm, but he was unable to conceal the smugness on his face. Lu Qianhuan pursed her lips and pointed toward a mountain range in the distance. "Do you want to go and have a look?" "Of course." This is an extremely valuable asset to our sect, and it's the first spirit stone mine we've ever discovered. We have to take a good look at it. And Lin replied with a smile. I thought you were going to run back after the fight. Lu Qianhuan chuckled softly, and her eyes glowed with renewed vigor. Thus, the two of them led the group of 4 Immortal Sect disciples toward the Spirit Stone mine. This mine was extremely massive and spanned over a dozen mountains. However, it was a little difficult to mine as a large portion of the mine was formed in the middle of the mountain, which made it very easy for it to be damaged. As such, there was a very high requirement for the method and accuracy of mining. Thankfully, Tina was an expert in this area, and she quickly came up with an effective mining plan. She also made a rough estimate of the mine in this area. The quality of the spirit stones in this mine was above average and suitable for mining. There were a total of 150 million spirit stones in reserve. Furthermore, without damaging the foundation of the spirit stone mine, the maximum number of spirit stones that could be mined in a single year was 20 million. After a year of mining, it would take over 100 years for the mine to completely recover. However, that didn't matter. This place had become a massive treasury for the 4 Immortal Sect. This was a bountiful harvest, and Lin and Lu Qianhuan were both extremely elated. The dozen or so Outer Sect disciples were also ecstatic. This was the Spirit Stone mine that they had discovered. According to the sect rules, they would receive a huge reward as well as a chance to become an Inner Sect disciple. Chapter 987. After a short while, everyone set up camp on the spot. Not long after that, a round, silvery white aircraft flew over from the distance before landing on the high ground where everyone was situated. The cabin door opened, and many purple-robed cultivators emerged from within. They were led by a tall and slender beauty with a cold expression on her face. And Lin, I didn't think you'd be able to take care of such a big issue. The woman made her way over to him with approval in her eyes. And Lin harumphed with displeasure. Big Sister Bai, our sect is on the brink of destruction, but you're working on technology? Aren't you ashamed? That's right. The person who had just appeared was none other than the most powerful being in the 4 Immortal Sect, Bai Ling. Behind her were naturally the people from the Purple Star Pavilion. I was just relieved when I heard that you were rushing over. It looks like I was right. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu were both crushed by you. That's impressive. For some reason, Bai Ling was in a particularly good mood after seeing how bad *SS and Lin was. She was also becoming more talkative. And Lin pursed his lips and didn't say anything. He turned to the strange round objects that the purple-robed cultivators were carrying. What are these? The Doubtful Micro-Hadron Life Destruction Formation is a defensive formation that I'm planning to set up in this mountain range. It's powerful enough to even kill return to void initial stage mighty figures. On top of that, it has warning, notification, and the ability to adjust the climate and vital energy, Bai Ling explained. And Lin gave her a thumbs up. That's great. He didn't know what the hell it was, but the effects were very bad *SS, and that was enough. This way, the mining of this spirit stone mine would be guaranteed. By the way, Big Sister Bai Ling, what have you been researching in the small Phoenix world all day? And Lin had heard that Bai Ling had been completely engrossed in scientific research recently, and that the 5 Inner Sect core disciples under her command had been left to their own devices. So he couldn't help but ask about her. A mysterious smile appeared on Bai Ling's face. Take a guess. Take a guess. You're researching how to protect world peace. And Lin snapped. Bai Ling covered her mouth and heaved a faint sigh. You're right. And Lin rolled his eyes and said, What about those inner court disciples? You're not going to teach them anymore? He began to sympathize with the 5 little fellows. It wasn't easy for him to stand out among thousands of soldiers and horses, and he thought that he could walk to the peak of his life. Who knew that his master would be so engrossed in research that he couldn't be bothered to teach? What a despairing thing. Teach. I've already given them all the teaching materials, Bai Ling replied with a nonchalant expression. Teaching material? And Lin was surprised. What a strange yet familiar term. Bai Ling nodded. That's right. I'll have them learn Purple Star Grand Unification Mathematics, Introduction to Microphysics of a Universe, Superstring Theory, Vital Energy Melder Modeling. She recited 18 books in one go. And Lin's eyes widened as he sucked in a breath of cold air. He recalled the fear of being dominated by the teaching materials. Does the Purple Star Pavilion teach these things? Bai Ling replied with a matter-of-fact expression. Of course. These are only the basics of the basics. After that, I'll have them combine the knowledge with their cultivation. In any case, learning these things will be very useful in the future. And Lin opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. However, he suddenly felt a lot of sympathy for the disciples who had joined the Purple Star Pavilion. Bai Ling smiled. Knowledge is the stepping stone for human progress. If they don't even know the basics, then what difference is there between them and animals? My most urgent mission now is to help the disciples of the Purple Star Pavilion become more intelligent as soon as possible. And Lin felt like he had been stabbed in the chest with a sword, and a look of astonishment and confusion appeared on his face. Enlighten the King people? Then he wasn't enlightened? You've given them so many advanced teaching materials. Will they really be able to understand them? And Lin was still a little concerned. A vibrant smile appeared on Bai Ling's face. I pick people based on their intelligence. Those disciples are all quite smart, especially Chu Ming and Zhou Yu. They're very flexible and creative. Their names sound like they're quite smart. And Lin nodded. They toured the Spirit Stone mine again and made arrangements for people to mine and guard it. And Lin, Tina, Xiaoza, and the others began to return to the sect. And Lin hadn't returned to the sect for a long time, so he wanted to take this opportunity to make a trip back. They boarded Bai Ling's silver spacecraft, which was very spacious. The background was pure white and beige, and it gave off a very high-tech feel. There were no complicated operating devices. Instead, there were sofas, snacks, a tea room, and a viewing platform. Bai Ling conjured up a screen of light in the air and set up a set of coordinates before entering automatic flight mode. These were all highly intelligent products, so they didn't need to be operated by hand as they were in movies. After all, under normal circumstances, these highly intelligent computers will be able to operate them much more accurately than humans could. This spatial white fairy's flying speed is only slightly slower than spatial teleportation, but it's more comfortable and less expensive, so I usually use it to get around. Bai Ling poured herself a cup of fruit brew and sat down on the sofa with a smile on her face. It's not bad. And Lin nodded as he looked down at the land below them. Spatial White Fairy was the name of this circular aircraft, but in terms of speed, it was a lot faster than even in Lin's full speed. Tina's emerald eyes widened as she surveyed her surroundings with curiosity. Everything here was extremely novel to her. At the 4-9 Immortal Sect, beside a clear lake, a woman with intricate dragon horns, gentle features, and otherworldly features raised her head. An invisible ripple swept through the blue sky, instantly dispersing the white clouds in the sky. Immediately afterward, a silvery white wheel of light appeared, and a circular flying object appeared at the center of it before slowly descending. Master's back safely. Bai Lian was elated. She knew that Xiaoza had accidentally killed the Dragon King's second prince and had been forced to become an eternal slave by the Dragon Court. She had been scared *less at the time, and she had wanted to rush over to save Xiaoza with all her might. She was Ao Ming's daughter after all, and she had been abandoned due to her bloodline. Now that her bloodline had returned to its peak, her potential was limitless. Perhaps if she agreed to return to the Dragon Court, they would let Xiaoza go. However, she was stopped by Bai Ling, who told her that Lin would take care of this matter. Bai Lian was unable to go to the Flying Ball Tribe's territory, and her heart was burning with anxiety. Lin was facing the entire Dragon Court, so how could she not be worried? However, news of Lin turning the tables and crushing all of the Dragon Court's powerful beings spread, and Bai Lian felt as if she had fallen into a dream. So, Lin had already grown to this extent. Bai Lian was a little dazed. She was a little happy, but also a little sad. In the past, they had fought side by side against enemies, but now, Lin had already reached the pinnacle and even her father was no match for him. At this moment, the aircraft's hatch opened. "Master!" she yelled before running over happily to welcome Xiaoza, only to be greeted by an unexpected figure. Balian faltered slightly before her eyes lit up. "Enlin, you're back too." Enlin was a little angry. "Call me Grandmaster." "Balian,"